Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and welcome to the 2025 Australia Day special with Crash Bandicoot. Look at how nitrous oxide just appeared right there. This game was not designed for wide screen. But yeah, this is Crash Bandicoot, The Wrath of Cortex. Initially titled Crash Bandicoot 4 in Japan, until we then got another Crash Bandicoot 4, which kind of puts the rest of the games from Wrath of Cortex through Mind of a Mutant into questionable canonicity. Well, I mean, I say that, but we haven't had a Crash game in ages, so really, who the fuck knows what's going on at this stage? But anyway, infamous loading times aside, here's a fuckload of cutscenes.
Imbeciles! Fools! Nincompoops! Can't you idiots do anything right? According to this, your track record for spreading evil is pathetic! Ooka, it's not our fault! That wretched Bandicoot is to blame! I will not let anything stand in the way of evil, especially not a brainless orange marsupial! Crash must be eliminated!
Ooka, need I remind you that Crash always finds a way to defeat us? Maybe he's just too good for us.
Enough excuses! You 5 idiots need to come up with one good plan! Or else... How do I get into these situations?
There must be something we can come up with. Say, Doctor, haven't you been tinkering with some kind of new secret weapon in your laboratory?
I don't know what you're talking about, Entropy.
Dr. Cortex! I think he's referring to this super secret weapon you've been laboring over day and night since the last time Crash defeated you.
Enough bickering! Do we have a plan? Well, in my scientific endeavors, I've been able to create a genetically advanced superweapon of unbelievable strength. But the power source is the final missing crucial element. Elements. Yes, the elementals. Right, the elementals, that's it. If released, their destructive energy could create enough power to bring my secret weapon to life. We'd have a weapon capable of crushing mountains, demolishing entire cities, and wiping Crash Bandicoot off the face of the earth forever! Get ready to face my wrath, Crash Bandicoot! What's happening? No, it cannot be. Oh, no!
What's going on? Oh no! Crash! Look out!
Is everyone all right? It appears that my evil twin brother Ooka is up to his no-good tricks again. I must find out what he is planning. I'll meet up with you later.
Hello, my feeble brother.
You have gotten my attention, Ooka. What kind of diabolical scheme do you and Dr. Cortex have planned this time?
No schemes. Just some old familiar faces dropping by for a visit.
No, not the elementals. Ooka, why did you release them? Don't you know what happened the last time they were free?
So they were responsible for a few earthquakes, floods, and that little ice age a couple of centuries back. You worry too much, brother.
You cannot restrain them, Ooka. They are far too dangerous. This could spell disaster for us all.
On the contrary, Aku, That spells disaster for you and that precious planet you care so much about. Destroy him!
You won't get away with this.
Who's going to stop us?
Crash, Coco, it is just as I feared. Uka Uka and Dr. Cortex have freed a group of destructive masks known as the Elementals. We must find a way to stop them before they destroy the Earth and all of its inhabitants. The only way to stop the Elementals' destructive nature is to imprison them with the use of ancient crystals. Each elemental can be returned back to their hibernation state with a total of 5 crystals. We must act quickly. Coco, what is the status of the new portal chamber you've been working on?
It's almost finished. A few little adjustments here and there, and it'll be ready to go.
Well done, Coco. This gives us the ideal opportunity to test it. We must hurry.
Okay, all systems are ready and operational.
It's time we evened up the odds in our favor.
Crash Bandicoot, my old nemesis. How the heck are you? Still gathering crystals? Old habits die hard, don't they? My days are being spent on something much more intriguing. Meet Crunch, my newest creation.
This is the creature who keeps sabotaging your master plan? Ha! You gotta be kidding. I'll exterminate this field rat in no time.
Now, Crunch, your time with Crash will come soon enough. Isn't he brilliant? A testament to my true scientific genius. A real Bandicoot warrior. Unlike you, Crash. Oh well, we all make mistakes. Ta-ta for now.
What are you looking at, fuzzhead? I'm Rocco, the Earth Elemental. Uka Uka and Dr. Cortex woke me from my captive slumber, and now I'm free to pulverize whatever gets in my way. Oh, don't even think about collecting those crystals, Front. Because if you do, I'm gonna bury you alive.
Jesus fucking Louises, that is a Metal Gear Solid tier worthy of several cutscenes to explain what is otherwise just a simple plot. So again, yeah, I mean, to kind of talk about Wrath of Cortex in and of itself, yeah, this was pretty much the first, well, not technically the first post-Naughty Dog game, because that honor technically goes to Crash Bash, which was developed by Eurocom on the PlayStation 1, but yeah, this is technically the first main series Crash game developed by Traveler's Tales in the year 2001, and yeah, I'll be talking about the game's development history as we get further on into the commentary, but in the meantime though, it's very much what you typically expect from a linear Crash Bandicoot-style platform. You've got crates to smash, enemies to bonk and spin around, and of course you got different fruits to collect, and basically smash all the crates, get a gem, find a crystal in the level, and gradually you'll just make your way through, doing fun platformer antics as you do a little dance go dun 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 dun. But yeah, Wrath of Cortex. Anybody who knows anything about Crash Bandicoot might be wondering, well, golly gee, it looks just like the first 3 Crash Bandicoot games, so what's so wrong about this game? Well, primarily the fact that it doesn't really seem to do much of anything different, and, well, in turn, a lot of people just saw it as an inferior version of Crash Bandicoot 3. So, what do I think about Crash Bandicoot, the Wrath of Professor Neo Periwinkle Cortex? I have all his games! Well, I mean, again, if you've seen the review I made all the way back in 2016, although I wouldn't blame you if you hadn't, because, well, that video is nearly 10 years old now, and... oh, I just made myself feel old once more. But yeah, I am someone who does genuinely enjoy the Wrath of Cortex. I mean, again, there is a lot of deficiencies in the gameplay department that I can't see, and a lot of flaws that people have pointed out, but at the same time, I don't know, there's just a certain unique atmosphere and vibe about Wrath of Cortex that I just can't help but love, really, and we will get into that as we gradually explore this winter wonderland that looks so refreshingly cold right now, because, yeah, kind of contrary to, you know, the Australia Day ethos, it is currently fucking sweltering hot, whereas in there it's nice and cool, and, I'm there. But putting all that aside, though, it's very much just sort of traditional Crash Bandicoot as everything goes on. And for those of you not familiar with the Australia Day setup that we have here, is, you know, it's very much just sort of a long play. We just sort of continue the game, just have a look, have a few gaffes, and if anything gets a bit stumbly in terms of commentary, fuck it, really. We're just sort of here to have fun. But yeah, what a lot of this also entails in terms of how the commentary is set up, we're pretty much doing this in a very sort of linear level-by-level kind of thing, so, yeah, this isn't going to be a complete guide on how to get every single crystal and gem, so yeah, it's a bit more of a truncated run, but by that same token, I'm also just giving you the $10 tour of Wrath of Cortex and, you know, showing a few unique nooks and crannies, like here, as this is the optional gem pathway. But yeah, nothing to worry about here, and if you're wondering why Crash is dead, well, you've already got the gem, and, yeah, this is a trick that you can technically pull off, and, you know, a lot of the PS1 era Crash games as well, that, if you happen to collect a gem, and, again, since you technically have it in your inventory if you press the triangle button, yeah, that gem stays within your inventory, so all you need to do is just, go back to the rest of the level, smash the rest of the crates, and bada bing, you get a crystal, and you also get another gem for your troubles by breaking all the boxes or taking alternate pathways. So yeah, it's really just more of a thing that you can do to, well, you know, sort of keep yourself in vittles and, you know, make sure you get everything in one concise run. But, again, that can't technically apply for every level, but the only reason why it works here is because of nitro destruction switches, which pretty much destroy the nitrous crates, which, unlike TNT, will pretty much kill you on contact. So I guess maybe the box itself is also laced in nitroglycerin, or maybe it's just that unstable. I mean, again, it is an unstable explosive compound, but I mean, even in that case, Jesus Christ, you're not gonna... Yeah, you're not gonna suddenly die if you touch a nitroglycerin canister, so... Yeah, who knows, really. But yeah, I mean, I guess maybe to talk about one of the more prevalent things about Wrath of Cortex, the graphics. That's a bit of an odd thing to say, like, I mean, for its time, it was a fairly okayishly decent-looking game. I mean, Crash's model is obviously a little bit more... detailed, and they are obviously trying to showcase, like, oh, look at our powerful PlayStation 2, as we have Crash's 3D model as the live caption, as opposed to the, you know, stylized artwork we had beforehand, but, yeah, there is a lot about Wrath of Cortex that does look very, PS2 development kit, for lack of a better phrase, in the sense that, yeah, in terms of artistic cohesion, there is a lot that just sort of feels like, okay, here's an asset pack, here's some billboarded sprites and everything else that we're trying to desperately use, and as a result, you might say that it doesn't quite match the look of the very sort of Looney Tunes-esque design that Crash Bandicoot had in the PS1 days, but I don't know, I feel like, whether in some sort of ways or in other ways, it does kind of suit the more, I wouldn't say realistic, but at least some of the more, well, again, since we are talking about weather elements, in more ways than one, the atmospheric design, as, you know, we're seeing right here. And of course, being heavily based on Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, or 3 Crash Bandicoot Warped, for those of you who know how to read the title. Yeah, basically, yeah, a lot of the gimmicky minigames also returned here, and in greater numbers, because, yeah, in order to get a lot of crystals like this, you're pretty much destroying 5 of a thing while you're flying around in a jet plane, you've got, you know, vehicle levels of the yin-yang, and that is arguably one of the more fair criticisms that I have heard about Wrath of Cortex, in the sense that a lot of its gameplay departments is heavily dependent on, you know, the amount of vehicles that you're using, and that does take away the core focus from traditional platforming gameplay, which, you know, I mean, even Wrath of Cortex is arguably one of the better parts of the game and is still perfected to a T enough that even Traveler's Tales, rather middling to reasonably okayishly good, sometimes terrible studio that they could occasionally be, what have you, you know, could still replicate rather faithfully, and given the time frame that they had to develop the game, that's, you know, that's something to be proud of, I think. But in any case, though, there is also another thing to talk about, as you could maybe slightly see with some of the enemies that are trying to pip Crash's health bar, and something that I think you will see by the time we pretty much destroy this last little wind generator machine, causing tornadoes all throughout rural America, or so I presume. But yeah, as you can see here, former Crash enemies. Former Crash bosses, I should say. now demoted to regular enemies. Yeah, this does earn the ire of a lot of people, but, you know, in a bit of a bizarre sort of tie towards, you know, actual story context and continuity, I think it does make sense, given the fact that, you know, Uka Uka was pretty much like, oh wow, you guys fucking suck, so I guess that maybe this is him punishing them for failing to defeat Crash. You know, they're no longer bosses, they're now regular enemies who don't really get any extra help, as they're pretty much heavily reliant on Crunch to pretty much, you know, take care of everything. Which, in and of itself, I suppose I might as well talk into story context. Crunch Bandicoot! In this era of platformer rivals, this was, I suppose, a vague attempt at giving Crash his own variant of, you know, the Metal Sonic, the Knuckles, sort of treatment, but, yeah, it doesn't quite last as long as that, because Crunch basically ends up, you know, switching sides by the end of the game, and, well, from there on, he ended up becoming a much less interesting character in my eyes. A little bit of that is sort of to do with his, you know, change in voice actor, because, I mean, with this game and, I think it was Nitro Kart, they had him voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson, who, you know, very much seemed to be directed to play the dude as, like, a straight-up tough guy, but, later on, well, I mean, it kind of went from, like, just sort of existing to then being a Mr. T impersonator and, like, tag team racing through Titans and Mind of a Mutant, and from there, it just sort of, and, yeah. So basically, this is only the one real game that really tends to serve Crunch Bandicoot really well. Again, particularly as you start seeing him more in the game, in the sense that, again, he's overconfident and, you know, confident in his abilities, and, you know, his powers to utilize the elemental mask that give him all sorts of unique super abilities. It's just that, you know, after this, he just sort of fades into the background. And what's also weird is that they don't really give him a lot of playable appearances later in the series anyway, which is also kind of disappointing, because, I mean, you thought you could have had some cool, you know, sorts of gameplay elements for him, but I guess not really. Although, speaking of other playable characters, as you will be seeing as we progress throughout the commentary, yeah, Coco was playable, and unlike, you know, the Insane Trilogy remakes, or even Crash Bandicoot 4, she isn't just a Crash clone, she actually does have a unique moveset, and actually would have had more, had the development time been there, but alas, it was not meant to be. And for those of you wondering why I'm not talking about this bizarre little gameplay segment here, don't worry, we'll get to that later. Because, you know, this little rollerball thing is very much, you know, an aspect of gameplay that does repeat all throughout the commentary game. Loading screen Motron, and yes, I am keeping these in. It is one of the more infamous parts of Wrath of Cortex. Even though, and to kind of cover up a discrepancy here, the loading times were only with the original Blue Disc PlayStation 2 versions of Wrath of Cortex, as opposed to the Platinum Hits version, which, you know, fixed the loading times and, you know... And that's all really to do with the format, actually, because, and again, this is very ancient history, but, yeah, before the PlayStation 2 had sort of officiated or officialized, you know, the DVD formats, you know, that being one of the big selling factors of, you know, the PlayStation 2 doubling as a DVD player. Yeah, a lot of early PlayStation 2 games actually used, I want to say it was like a CD-ROMs. They were very blue in coloration, and only a few games from the year 2010 did use them. Only ones I can really say to this stage, I think, was Wrath of Cortex. I want to say the first Time Splitters game, as well as, I think Fantavision might have been another one, but yeah, very early PlayStation 2 games used that, and just to say the loading times were rather lengthy beasts on those ones, so yeah, if you happen to be one who bought Wrath of Cortex, you know, day one, you would have experienced those long load times, but again, I'm not cutting anything out, so I mean, as you're seeing here, they are fairly expedient on, you know, the greatest hits releases, which is, you know, the version of the game that I own, so yeah. Slight misnomer about the loading times, especially if you're picking up later copies of the game, but, you know, if you happen to have Wrath of Cortex on a blue disc, well, yeah, I can see what people are getting at when they're, you know, sort of talking about the loading times, but even in that case, though, just, again, that's a really minor complaint, but then again, it is arguable that some of the more minor complaints are arguably what detracts, you know, gradually from Wrath of Cortex, in the sense that, I don't know, I guess to a lot of people it makes it a more inferior version of Warped. But I mean, as you're seeing here, like, I mean, it is very much tried and true Crash Bandicoot as you know and love it. I mean, same sort of gameplay styles, just, you know, replace a polar bear, a boulder, or a dinosaur with a fucking dragon, and, you know, it handles a lot of these elements fairly well, so I don't know, I mean, I don't want to say that Wrath of Cortex, you know, hasn't gotten the reputation it deserves, but by that same token, though, I also don't think it's, you know, the big boogeyman game that, you know, everyone's like, oh no, it ruined Crash forever, oh no. Especially given, you know, the rather, you know, the rather tense development cycle, as well as, you know, what potentially could have been had it not been for Universal going behind Mark Cerny's back and, you know, scoring a publishing deal with Konami and, you know, executives getting a little bit more antsy about, oh no, can't do a new game thing, might as well just do a same old Crash thing that they did before. Because executives know the Video games. But I mean, in any case though, like, I mean, apart from traversing through medieval castles, I will say that I do happen to quite like Wrath of Cortex's level variety. I mean, it's a little bit more traditional in terms of some of your video game picks. You have a few ice levels here and there, you know, you have medieval castles and, you know, industrial bases, but by that same token though, you do have like a lot of very cool lived-in settings to play with, and, you know, even despite, again, as I sort of churlishly mentioned beforehand, some of the graphical details of, you know, stock asset pack circa 2001, I don't know, it does manage to make that color palette work, and again, like, I mean, in terms of some of the lighting and atmosphere, it kind of returns to, well, again, some of the cool atmospheric pieces of the first Crash game, with the lighting in that one, you know, had a tendency to look a little bit more naturalistic and really sort of play around with, you know, how the levels felt, which isn't to badmouth Crash 2 or 3, I mean, I do like those games, it's just that, you know, this one just happens to capture lighting that looks a little bit more grim and, you know, in its own way does sort of play up the stakes a little bit. But, I mean, anyway, that's something you're going to be seeing as we, you know, continue to progress throughout the levels, which, again, like, I mean, say what you will about, you know, the mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics of a level, but, you know, sometimes aesthetics can very much be the make or break point for people, I don't know, jiving with the level in spite of subservient gameplay, and I know that sounds very sort of, like a backhanded compliment, you know, very much in the Shigeru Miyamoto of Donkey Kong Country sort of like, oh yes, well, anybody will play this poultry game if it looks good. But, yeah, I don't know, like, I mean, again, the gameplay quality is still more or less there, despite a few deficiencies here and there, so, yeah, I don't know, Wrath of Cortex still holds up fairly well for me. It's not the most refined Crash Bandicoot game, but again, it did the best with what it had, and I think it's remarkably solid for what it does, so, yeah. Wrath of Cortex. And I suppose I might as well also go into the soundtrack while I'm at it here. Yeah, Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex, it's no longer, you know, utilizing composers with Josh Mansell and Mark Mothersbaugh, but instead uses more of a, you know, an electronic orchestra kind of thing, and, I gotta say, I love a bit of ELO, but, you know, jokes aside, yeah, I actually happen to quite like the techno tunes that Wrath of Cortex also has. It, I don't know, creates a very unique soundscape compared to any other Crash game, and yeah, it's quite good. But this level in and of itself does also demonstrate, you know, the deficiencies that I was sort of hinting at earlier, really, mainly in the sense of a lot of your hazards. In previous Crash games, they usually took up the entire screen in terms of enemies, you know, flinging shit at you. Here, you can just sort of skirt around if you're skilled enough, so yeah. I mean, obviously there are parts where they, you know, sort of try to, you know, get up in your grill, but again, if you're skilled enough to get past them, well, yeah, you're just sort of getting by enemies in ways that you weren't actually intended to get in their way. But again, a lot of it's just really minor things that you only really notice if you play these games for, you know, years on end. Everybody else probably more or less just blow by a lot of these, you know, obstacles and not really bat too much of an eyelash. But I mean, again, obstacles that you can just sort of skirt across and ignore, well, yeah, it's, you know, it's rather paltry, and don't worry, we'll be getting to a few of those later on, and again, much to Traveler's Tales' credit, which I am willing to defend for a lot of mistakes in this game, yeah, they didn't tend to have, like, a lot of, you know, gameplay facets, you know, that would, I guess, put their own unique stamp on the Naughty Dog formula. It's just kind of a shame that it never really ended up happening, because, well, they just go a little bit whoop-de-doodle. Ooh, that was close, that could have exploded. Del Monte. There we go. But one thing I will say, though, that in terms of, at least a certain progression sense, like, I actually do happen to quite like how each of the 5th levels of each warp room end up in a sort of Cortex laboratory here and there, which, again, like, I mean, it doesn't quite go completely in the realm of Crash Bandicoot 1, where you're making your way from, you know, the safety of nature through to Cortex's industrial castle or anything, but it does also very much play upon those elements of, you know, exploring different parts of the world and, you know, on your globe-trotting adventure, just gradually making your way towards Cortex's bases where, you know, Crunch and the Elementals are very much making their home and, you know, putting a stop to Cortex's plans. And that's something we will soon see by the time we return, well, towards our boss fight, really. 3, and a 4, and a 5! Woohoo! Yes, talk about Wrath of Cortex going, By the way, why is he spraying radiation all over the floors, or is that meant to be a cleaning solution? Ah, queest. Well, we've dodged enough lasers, so, what are you trying to tell us, Crash? You can dodge bullets?
Well, well. Looks like the Bandicoot's been busy collecting crystals. I warned you, Bandicoot.
Finally, I get to wrap my fingers around your puny orange neck.
Well, that was quite dangerous, but yeah, now we have our first boss fight, and yeah, the star's also pretty much leading to a lot of people's disappointment. Why aren't we facing the regular bosses, but instead Crunch? But yeah, we're pretty much facing Crunch as he's powered up by several of the elemental masks, which, to be honest, I don't really mind all that much. I mean, again, like, would it be interesting to have other bosses? Sure, but I mean, at the same time, if, say, for example, if it was Tiny instead of Crunch doing the same thing with the elemental masks, would anybody really fucking care? But in any case, you're pretty much taking control of the atmosphere, while, again, one of the elemental masks, who I'm just gonna call Biff Tannen because of his voice actor Thomas F. Wilson, yeah. Basically, it's pretty much, get blue balls and make sure that Crunch doesn't get red balls, because otherwise then he'll, well, pretty much hurt you. And you do need to make sure that you don't hit Crunch's red balls, because otherwise, well, his balls will hurt you and they'll drain your health something fierce. So, yeah. These boss fights can be quite dangerous, and you do need to watch your step, and they do get quite schizophrenic and, well, quite difficult as they go on. But again, you saw right there, like, how much health Crunch's red balls took off, once I crashed into the, well, a glowing ball. There we go. But yeah, the number of balls that you need to... God, I'm fucking childish. I know I shouldn't get giggles, but yeah, the number of balls that you need to hit increases with each phase, but again, 3 balls raining down on Crunch, being surrounded by plentiful balls, and by that point, you pretty much won the day. But again, he can also knock your blue balls into red balls, so, yeah, just to make sure that you summon all the rocks you can, and, make sure that you have big stones to win the boss fight. But again, if you are cocky enough, you can hit the balls himself and, hit them again to turn them blue, and, there we go. Crunch Bandicoot and, the rock elemental is defeated. That means all of Earth's stone will erode to nothingness. Erosion. It's fantastic. And now we get the sneak shoes. More at 11.
Crash Bandicoot! You've got some nerve setting foot into my domain without an invitation. Don't talk back to me! I'll fix that attitude problem of yours!
God, out of all the things and voices that I never thought would come out of anybody's mouth, Ali Ermi saying Crash Bandicoot is just fucking bizarre. But yeah, to kind of cut to brass tacks here, yeah, they did actually get some celebrity voice actors to, portray some of the elemental masks. Again, you have Mark Hamill, as you heard much earlier on, voicing Pyro. You have Ali Ermi voicing Wawa, and again, Thomas F. Wilson voicing Rocco, I think? Yeah. Why exactly they got these celebrity voices for the characters, I have no idea, but Ali Ermi in a Crash Bandicoot game still fucking gets me, really. Again, a lot of people obviously know him for Full Metal Jacket, which I argue was probably the reason why they had that very Drill Sergeant voice for, the elemental mask. Odd casting, but, I don't know, it's funny at the very least, but, excuse me. But yeah, that's just, I guess to show where the budget went. And by the way, look at a lot of those billboarded Sprite trees right over there. Again, it's worth saying that, even these days we still have, cheap graphical tricks to try and, hide detailing all those grass textures and all that kind of thing, but, yeah. I'm not really too sure what to say, really. I do find it a little bit nostalgic to see, these obviously... not actually their 3D models trying to fake 3D in a very N64 kind of way, but... I don't know, I do recognize that it is very much just like a a cheap trick to get out of making sure that the processor doesn't explode for a lot of older consoles, but I don't know. I mean, it just sort of pops graphically, but I find it kind of charming in its own way, which, it's kind of nostalgic, really. And also does sort of put me in mind of Sonic 3D Blast, which, you know, intentional, Traveler's Tales. I believe it was developed by the Knightswood Studio, which would eventually end up splitting off into an Oxford studio that would then later go defunct shortly in 2005, so, yeah, that sucks. But in any case, though, we do have our naturey stage. It's all quite lovely, and, yeah, I guess to sort of talk about it right here and there, yes, the sneak shoes. They are rather useless, and pretty much they're intended to, well, basically be a means of you to sort of tread on nitro crates without having them detonate. Now, you might be wondering why this is. Well, pull up a chair and I will tell you, as we demonstrate its rather paltry usage. Or you could just skip over them like that and not use them at all and make them completely useless. But, yeah, anyway, basically, the sneak shoes and, you know, some invisibility crates, which we probably won't be seeing in this level, but we definitely will later on. Yeah, they were basically meant to be for a planned gameplay element, which was meant to be a counteraction to the lock-on proximity crate that will basically vaporize Crush as soon as it locks on target to him. Unless, of course, he was stealthy, so either he was moving incredibly slowly using some stealth skills, or, you know, being completely invisible. But yeah, obviously, this was cut at the 11th hour, and basically all that the sneak shoes really started to do was just tread very slowly and quietly across nitro crates, which, well, is kind of a wee bit pish, to be honest, and a bit of a waste of a power-up. But in any case, ooh, exciting gameplay things as we run away from rhinos. Whee! But again, I mean, as paltry excitement as these segments are meant to be, at the same time, though, I do sort of like what Wrath of Cortex is trying to do by making natural hazards feel, well, dangerous, and in turn, similar to Naughty Dog, working them in as part of the gameplay. Like, I mean, you know, we're in a sort of a foresty area in, you know, tropical settings, so now we have to outrun some rhinos in a jeep, so I don't know, just simple things like that just sort of add to the excitement of a lot of levels, really. I mean, sometimes I handle them well like this, other times not so well, but I don't know, if stuff like this, it works. And again, that's one of the things that I do genuinely enjoy about Wrath of Cortex. It tries to make a lot of the natural disaster elements of the gameplay segments feel, you know, threatening, dangerous, utilizes them as platforming hazards, and well, I mean, in turn, while it isn't quite as high stakes as, you know, the time machines exploding, end of the universe sort of thing, I don't know. I feel like it takes it utilizes its gimmick rather well, and, again, it sort of gives it its own unique identity, which, I mean, again, in shape it might very much resemble Crash Bandicoot Warped, and it does in a lot of aspects, but, again, in a lot of style and atmosphere, I feel like it does have its own unique, quirks to it, and that includes also having some very atmospheric underwater stages with some great music, and goddamn, I just fucking love these levels. I mean, again, I'm not really too big of a fan of you know, swimming and crash games, but by that same token, though, I do quite enjoy the underwater stages for just being really cool, and especially for a lot of the lighting and atmospheric effects they have under here. I don't know, it's again, maybe it's just my inner Australian, you know, with a love of the water, but man, the deep oceans, I don't know, they can be quite scary, but they can also be incredibly beautiful. I mean, the oceans very much are, you know, a completely unexplored world of their own, and, yes, we have yet to plume the depths. Well, I mean, we have plumed the depths, but, you know, to see the true beauty of it all. The mysteries of the sea. I mean, yeah, I mean, if I do have any slight criticisms, I'd say that some, foreground elements do kind of obscure your vision a little bit, but, I don't know, it's nothing too bad, and again, they did still remember, you know, video game color usage rules and making Crash stand out from his environment, so, again, you can still tell where he is by proxy of his, you know, his scuba tank and, you know, his orange fur coloration, so, yeah, it's nothing really to worry about. But I suppose to continue talking about other things Crash Bandicoot related, primarily in relation to, well, Wrath of Cortex's reputation, yeah, with the release of the other Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, yeah. Well, I mean, partially by a factor that you can't really play this game much anymore, unless of course you've tracked down an old PS2 copy, and, well, I mean, I guess the fact that they pretty much decanonized everything from Wrath of Cortex through Twinsanity and, you know, the Titan duology, yeah, I guess we'll probably never end up seeing these games again. Because, you know, it's not like Activision / Microsoft is really doing anything with it these days with, what, fucking Crash Team Rumble cancelling Crash 5 because 4 apparently didn't make sales despite being popular. Whoopee! Well, then again, who knows what the story behind the cancellation of the current Crash 5 is. Maybe it was to do with Activision being a bit greedy. Maybe Microsoft wanted to invest a little bit more in the Battle Royale thing, which is probably why they hoped that Crash Team Rumble would be a more success than it was. Maybe it's Maybelline, who knows, but as we continue to progress inside our little submarine, well, let's just marvel at the beauty of the deep blue sea. Checkpoint! Alright, oh yeah! Oh, look at all that sunken treasure. But, yeah, it is important that you do hold on to these vehicles, because otherwise, well, yeah, you ain't gonna be detonating the nitrous. Whew, that can be quite mighty tight. But anyway, all that aside, though, I guess to sort of talk about getting all the gems and everything in terms of Wrath of Cortex, yeah, I don't know, I think I actually have I think I had an easier time getting the gems here than I did in Crash, you know, Crash 2 and 3, really, so, yeah, like, I mean, getting 100% is, you know, fairly simplistic if you know what you're doing. It's, I guess, just a matter of whether or not you enjoy the game, although, I will say that in terms of getting, like, the 100% ending, or at least, you know, just, we're not getting the 100% ending, sorry, just, getting the basic regular ending, it is, honestly, one of the more egregious examples of, like, oh no, we haven't completed the game 100%, but wait, they need to get the gems, so, fuck you, that's it. But don't worry, you'll be seeing that cutscene towards, you know, when we hit the endgame stretch of this video, so... Yes, your pain will be my pain, and my pain will be yours. Oh, delicious gems. There we go. Yes, we even took our little vehicle with us. Bonk. Oh my god. Now we're playing as Coco! But yeah, this is very much, you know, Coco's, well, not really her second playable appearance, but at least her first fully fledged, moveset ability. She doesn't quite have the same sort of, abilities as Crash. She does have a rather useless, like, a crouch kick move and, you know, just a more simplistic spin, but, you know, by that same token, platforming is pretty fun to do with her, so... I mean, honestly, despite not being a one-for-one copy with Crash, again, I think she controls okay here. And I mean, even in that case, she does get some pretty cool levels to play with, like, you know, some of the Kung Fu Temple theme levels, which, again, have some pretty kickin' music, dude, so overall I'm pretty happy. So yeah, Coco, she doesn't control exactly like Crash, but she's still fun. Funny dat. But in any case, though, got not much really more to say. Especially as we go through these, little pagoda areas, and... Well, I mean, again, just, I mean, to once again talk about graphics, I just can't help but love just how beautiful this game looks. Again, they took rudimentary, you know, design works and assets, and they made it fucking cool. I mean, again, for as much as I could easily tout Traveler's Tales as being a very work-for-hire sort of studio, even these days when all they're pretty much doing is LEGO shit, I don't know, if as developers they can be quite talented when they need to be. It's just that not all of their games are hits. But anyway, let's, see if there's anything I can talk about right now. I ain't got nothing, really. Well, I guess we might as well talk about the bonus stuff as we continue to progress. Yeah, again, in keeping with Trash Bandicoot, Wrath of AIDS, said the internet reviewers of 2001, probably. But yeah, in keeping with basically Crash Bandicoot 2 and Old One's tradition, yeah, you're pretty much going to complete all the bonus stages to get all the boxes, and if you fail, well, you're basically screwed. Again, things you can see with your eyes, but that's what you gotta do to keep a good rhythm. So commentary freaking wikes. But yeah, very familiar hazards if you've ever played, you know, some of the Great Gate stages from the first Crash game, so... Yes, quite fun all the way around, really, as we defeat these ninjas! So is this technically meant to be Japan or China? Because, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of Chinese-themed buildings, or maybe this is just meant to be general Asian stereotype kind of thing. It's like, ah, fuck it, just mix a bunch of cultures together. Nobody will mind. Aquist. There is a crate. And we got a life. Cortex. He is the lord of the pagoda. It was the front for his secret hideout and all his armor doodles. But yeah, now we got a really sick techno tune and Crash Bandicoot riding a fucking fly. I suppose it's meant to be like a mechanical fly thing where we need to destroy pirate ships? I don't know, it's a pretty cool fucking stage and I actually really like this and yeah. I mean, compared to the other flying level, yeah, this one pretty much changes your loadout to, well, a missile launcher that you need to charge up and lock on target. But I will say, like, contrasting and comparing the flying levels to Crash 3, I think it is easier to die in these levels compared to the other ones, because I don't think it also has that little, you know, that little off-screening trick where, again, in Crash 3, if you off-screen an enemy, you know, who's trying to shoot at you from behind, then, you know, they pretty much take off a fuckload of your health. But again, if you off-screen them in Crash 3, well, again, they're pretty much off-screen and they spawn someplace else. Not here, though, because this is running on the power of the PlayStation 2! And, yeah, they can pretty much pip you from behind unless you take them out, so, yeah, you do need to be attentive, and, by the way, look out for those lava spurts, because they can also hurt you, so, ooh. It's rather deadly. So yeah, make sure that you sink their battleships before they sink yours, and if you don't sink their battleship, well, your plane will be sunk, and yeah, you also don't get a lot of health pickups from, you know, the health balloons, so, yes, you, I mean, I guess in a similar vein to some of the other levels of, you know, Crash Bandicoot, you know, flying levels gone by, yeah, pretty much get all the crates, die so that, again, you pretty much pick up the gem, and then by the time you pretty much, you know, have full health and plenty of health balloons so that you can basically just sort of hunt them down, destroy the boats, and bada bing, you do the thing and you can pretty much complete this level a little bit easier, albeit at the expense of a life, so, you know, pick your poison, sacrifice one of your lives to have a bit of an easier time getting both the gem and crystal, but, you know, that's all your choice, really. Loading. But in any case, so to kind of talk about, you know, the fifth stages in and of himself, kind of similar to, you know, when we encountered Rocco's funnel area, you know, he was basically him with all the yeehaw Wild West mining town, you know, fitting with this whole thing about gems. But then we also have underwater stages. We're tackling against, you know, the water elemental Wawa. Really, they could have picked up a better name than that, like maybe something a little bit more... Well, I mean, again, not like Aku Aku or Uku Uku is exactly that, well, culturally tied into anything, really, but, yeah, whatever. Wawa just sounds like something... Oh, yes, it sounds like something a little baby would say about their sibling. But yeah, I mean, on to the salient point, though. I do kind of like these little intro preludes where, you know, it does sort of show Crash sort of making his way into the base and, you know, working his way through all the enemies and, you know, basically taking them down to size and putting a stop to Cortex's facilities all around the world. Which again, I suppose now that I bring it up, does also bring me back to another topic that I was talking about earlier with, again, the sense of progression and, I guess also the semblance of world building that Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex has compared to, you know, the likes of Crash 2 and 3. I mean, Crash 2 maybe a little bit less since it did very much take place all across, you know, Insanity Island, but, Crash Bandicoot 3, I mean, again, it did have that whole time travel adventure where you warp to and fro. This one, on the other hand, does very much feel like a bit of a globe-trotting adventure in, well, more of a linear way. I mean, you're exploring different locales throughout the world and utilizing a lot of the different elements, such as, you know, again, like the wind tornadoes earlier on, you know, the deep sea areas that are, you know, swept with tornadoes, or, you know, some of the Ninja Pagodas where, you know, parts of the world are being affected by the Elemental's crunch and Cortex's evil schemes. Basically what I'm trying to get at here is that, again, it does very much feel like it's the end of the world as we know it, and I don't feel fine. I'm freezing my butt off! But, yeah, I don't know, it kind of makes the dangers feel a little bit more tangible than, well, I mean, not necessarily more tangible than Crash 3, but it makes it feel a little bit, well, for lack of a better phrase, closer to home. In the sense that you're running through a lot of the damage that the Elementals are doing, unless, of course, Crash, you know, takes it upon himself and Coco to put a stop to Cortex's madness. I don't know, I guess you could call it story and gameplay integration that I just can't help but appreciate. But as we continue to travel through this area, it does also contain one of my favourite levels in the game, being this one with, well, again, underwater sea bases. Probably one of my favourite tropes in video games, to be honest, because, you know, I love me a good, you know, base setting, and I also love underwater. So, a match made in heaven for me, really. All it really needed to do was lead up to a modern city and have Crash Bandicoot in an urban cityscape, and by God, I would have been happy as a clam with this game. But alas, it was not meant to be. Oh, we can't skip over this one. And now we get the tertiary use of the sneak shoes. Whee! But yeah, that's very much all you get to use them for. Again, it is worth reminding you that, again, they were initially meant to counteract another crate that wasn't put into the game with the whole lock-on proximity crates, but... I mean, again, I can't imagine that the gameplay probably would have been best served with even those lock-on proximity crates being in the game to justify the power-up, but... I don't know, I mean, it's not like Crash Bandicoot has had, you know, useless power-ups before. I mean, again, does anybody remember the fucking Super Belly Flop from Crash 3? Wow, now I can do something I already can, but more. So yes, you know, I mean, Crash Bandicoot 3 does also have its aspects of diminishing returns, but, yeah. I suppose that's something for another day, because we do have another boss fight coming up, and it's one that can be rather, bullshit if you don't know what you're doing. But I'll stay my tongue on that, so, boss fight, ho!
Ah! Get over here, you little orange sponge!
Cause we're gonna wring you out.
Yeah, this boss fight can be completed rather quickly, but to kind of get into brass tacks, yeah, your biggest enemy here is not Wawa or Crunch himself, it's instead depth perception, because, yeah, these waves have a very deceptive hitbox, and, well, yeah, these platforms also sink, so you can't take your time to judge depth either, so you either gotta be on the ball on your first shot, or, well, you are pretty much screwed. But yeah, he pretty much does have two means of attack, so one's either over or under, really, so, yeah, you can't stay on these too long, because otherwise you will die, and, yeah, they also have those bubbles perking up, so, yeah. This boss fight can be a wee bit bullshit, but you also gotta be quick, so, yeah. Could have used a little bit more time in development, but that was time that Traveler's Tales didn't have.
I realize my brethren have had some trouble with you, my little orange friend, but I'm not quite sure why. Huh. Is it getting hot in here? Is it safe to be wearing that fur? It looks flammable!
There you go, Mark Hamill. Took you a while, but you got there in the end. He did a half-assed weird mix between his regular speaking voice and the Joker voice. I really don't know what to say in this aspect. I mean, they obviously hired Mark Hamill to do his Joker voice, but I don't know why he seems to sort of stop halfway between doing that and this, or was there some sort of, like, weird legalese with Warner Brothers or something? Because, I mean, I do seem to recall, actually, something with, like, I think it was to do with, like, Tom Kenny, where he can't... Where was this weird thing where he can't do his SpongeBob voice or, like, anything other than the show itself, so... Maybe that was a thing? I don't know. Maybe it was just a case of, Mark Hamill not being paid enough for this shit, and then he just sort of... I don't know. Winged it. It's a paycheck. Delicious, delicious money. Well. Anyway, a bit of random trivia. I don't think this is quite the level, but yeah, for one of the medieval levels, I need to get the focus again. Yeah, Medieval Madness. Might be this one, might be another one later on involving the Atmosphere. Maybe it's Maybelline. But yeah, this theme was actually cut out of the Xbox and GameCube versions, but for whatever reason, it stays in the PlayStation 2 version. Quite odd. Kind of reminds me of a similar case that happened actually in Sly Raccoon, actually, with, you know, when it came to the HD collection, one of the tracks that plays during the level where you use the swamp skiff doesn't play for some reason, and then you get an alternate track. I mean, it's not quite the case in Wrath of Cortex, because, I mean, what plays instead of the Medieval Madness theme is, you know, the regular theme that usually plays for a lot of the medieval levels, so really, what's going on? I don't know, but yeah, bonus rooms in keeping with, you know, the traditional Crash Bandicoot theme. We have yet another coverage of, you know, the typical Crash Bandicoot Warp Room theme in, you know, various different styles throughout, and, yeah, that's right, I suppose. Whoopee. I mean, this isn't really me losing steam for the commentary module, it's really just more to do with the fact that, again, as I sort of brought up in Streets of Rage 3, when you have a very simple gameplay formula, it's, you know, it's difficult to find things to talk about as, you know, that doesn't sort of devolve into either pointless tangents or just things that nobody really gives a fuck about, like, you know, enemy placement, box placement, and general game developer jargon that people would find, I don't know, sort of dull, really. But, I mean, again, if I can say anything about... See, God, I'm even devolving into that despite the fact that I said that I wouldn't. But yeah, I mean, as I said, in terms of like a hazard and object placement, like, I mean, again, there are at least a few areas where you could go, oh, that's not quite how Naughty Dog would have done it, but... Yeah, it's really more to do with how you can skirt around obstacles, as I sort of mentioned beforehand. Well, I mean, then again, you could just tank the hits like that. I mean, you could do it in the other games as well, but it's neither here nor there in this place, but, yeah. I mean, again, it's not something that I find to be absolutely terrible in a similar vein to, you know, what some of the Naughty Dog games would have had either. It's just, you know, really. So yeah, Wrath of Cortex. At its absolute worst, it's At its absolute best, it's, well, kind of fun. Oh, delicious crystals. Delicious! But yeah, I suppose to also further talk about some of the level tropes that I do find a little bit less interesting. I mean, I don't find the medieval levels too bad. I just find it to be a little bit derivative of you know, the previous game, if I can be completely honest. I mean, again, every other level though, I actually quite enjoy. It's just the medieval levels specifically that just seem to really sort of replicate, you know, Crash Bandicoot through his table scraps and make it feel more like a derivative game than what otherwise it would have been. I mean, it's good for variety's sake, I suppose, but I mean, putting that aside, it's just kind of, So, more medieval levels? No, it cannot be. Well, this shouldn't take too long, but, yeah, again, as you're seeing here with a few anachronisms, again, this isn't a time-traveling adventure like we saw back in the old days. It's very much just a themed level for, you know, Cortex. I mean, the man does love his castles, so, yeah. I guess he just likes to sort of fit with the theme, really. Delicious checkpoint crate. It tastes like homeliness. Oh yeah, they also get rid of the iconic Aku Aku Booga Booga theme that they used to have in the previous games. Why they changed it, I have no idea, but don't worry, it would eventually be restored in the Insane Trilogy. By which I mean, all they really did to change it was just basically add some vocals going hoo, ha. That's pretty much it. I mean, again, I'll save that sort of rambling to the Insane Trilogy for another day, on the off chance that I ever cover it, but probably won't be the case, because this is pretty much the last Crash Bandicoot game I plan on really doing for Australia Day, because Twinsanity is an open world and more story-driven kind of game. Well, I mean, this game is more story-driven too, but more in the sense that it has lengthy cutscenes to describe a simple plot, whereas in any other case, though, Twinsanity is more of an experience kind of game. Tag Team Racing is a racing spin-off. I don't own Nitro cards, so that's kind of out of the place. Crush the Titans is also more of a story-based game, and Mind of a Mutant is open world again, so... Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe the other Crash 4 with It's About Time, but I actually haven't played that game yet. Yeah, I mean, I picked it up in 2020, I was planning to give it a play, but yeah, 5 years later it's still sitting right there on my shelf, unopened, unplay-tested, and, well, probably will just be there until I get some time freed up so I can play some other video games, because I've got my plate full for 2025, and I mean, again, it was only really the Christmas break that I really allowed myself some, a little bit of time to play Slitterhead, really, which, you know, I kind of already talked about that in the Sonic X Shadow Generations commentary, so, yeah, Slitterhead. Pretty good game. I mean, again, the lack of, you know, Sony funding from Bokeh Studio does make itself quite known, but, overall, pretty fun game. Combat system might not be quite up to the Devil May Cry God of War standard, but, I don't know, pretty decent. I enjoyed it. But yeah, this is also... Yeah, in fact, I'm going to say, yeah, this is my favourite Coco level in the entire game, because, well, and it's kind of bizarrely placed since this is meant to be in Pyro's section, but, yeah, this level's surrounded by water, and, I mean, even with, you know, the water elemental gone, yeah, the lingering effects still remain, so Crash and Coco are on the clock, although... I do kind of suspect that the level order might have been switched midway through, but yeah. I mean, it's stuff like this specifically where it does kind of show, like, you know, tsunamis, tornadoes, and, you know, volcanic eruptions erupting all throughout the world. It does really sort of show the power of nature, and I don't know. It makes the stakes feel a little bit more deadly compared to, you know, the average Crash game, and whether that was because of how straight-laced they play the plot, I can't really say for certain, but again, it does give Wrath of Cortex a little bit more gravitas than, you know, what you would have otherwise seen with the previous Crash games. I mean, not to say that the Naughty Dog era was without tension either, really, but I don't know, they did always have a tendency to sort of, like, skirt by the, like, oh, Crash, what have you done? You've destroyed the space-time continuum with entropy knurling around to, you know, maintain the time twister, but again, I just sort of skirt over that, compared to here, where, you know, we have to run away from a fucking tsunami, which is kind of sick as hell, dude. But yeah, I mean, look at that, Coco outrunning a fucking tsunami on a bloody scooter. God, only in video games, the ladies and dudes. But yeah, if you want to go the extra mile and get an extra gem, well, yeah, basically you need to complete a death route, and yeah, you will be seeing the full effects of what happened in the aftermath, because yeah, you're also jumping on platforms, and well, oh, thank God that door's holding back all the water. But yeah, this level's music is also really fucking sick, and I love it. There we go. Again, I have heard a lot of people actually criticize Wrath of Cortex soundtrack for being bland, but I don't know. These techno tunes I think are pretty rockin', man. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, I mean, they might not be as bassy as I suppose like the Mark Mothersbaugh and Josh Mansell composed tracks were, but I don't know, they have a very unique appeal all of their own, and again, as somebody who does like a lot of the, you know, late 90s, early 2000s electronica music, it is pretty good. Oh god, my music taste is, well, I mean, I wouldn't say they've changed too much, but, you know, I do love me my electronica music. But, the heavy metal shall always remain as part of the Solidus-Skully identity. Ah, now we have our other gem. Now we can make cockatoodles with our gems? Because apparently I'm the most mature person, but anyway, who's ready for Smokey and the Bandicoot? Oh, finally, Crash Team Racing on PS2. As it was meant to be. But yeah, this is basically just a very pish racing minigame where you pretty much need to race around a circuit, get to the end, destroy the boxes, and well, just sort of make sure you can beat your opponents, really. Oof, that was fucking close, but yeah, the buggies here kind of control a little bit like us, so yeah, it's again, it can be quite easy to lose control of yourself because the handling isn't very good, but I mean, you do go reasonably fast, and again, provided that you are on top of, you know, hitting the speed boost and jumping over the ramps, you should be more or less okay, but yeah, it's, again, not all of these gameplay segments got as much playtesting as they otherwise should have, and, oh, I mean, again, if you thought Crash Bandicoot 3 was sort of pushing the envelope with a lot of its, you know, vehicle segments, well, yeah, the fact that Wrath of Cortex does double down on them can kind of lead to a bit of a lost focus, and, well, again, so many gameplay styles that you're sort of losing a bit of focus here and there. I mean, not a lot of them last too long, so again, I don't think it's quite as big of an issue as some people make it out to be, but again, I wouldn't fault people for not enjoying some of these gameplay styles over the traditional gameplay, though, so yeah. They are what they are. We falling down. Anyway, the Atmosphere, which is basically the official name for this little rollerball thing. Yeah, thought I had some trivia for it, but no, this is very much one of the bigger things that, well, Traveler's Tales would actually continue throughout their time developing Crash Bandicoot, because, yeah, it's basically just Crash rolling around on a giant rollerball, vulnerable to enemy attacks, and, well, I mean, apart from being stopped by some other enemies, yeah, you can pretty much flatten everything, or be destroyed by everything. But yeah, anyway, in terms of hazards though, again, you have Tiny pretty much there to sort of block your path. You have Entropy, who will either, you know, fire his Time Scepter at you to try and pip you off, or Dingodile, who, you know, blossom flamethrower bolts at you. And yeah, that's pretty much all she wrote, really. The enemies of the old Crash have been demoted. But then they were brought back because people liked them so much. And then they kind of went on to have gradually not very good roles in the later Crash games either, so it's not like their return really brought much of anything dignity-wise back to the series. But yeah, I mean, to kind of talk about the Atmosphere levels, I mean, they are very much one and done sort of levels where you just pretty much need to utilize your gimmick to get all the boxes you can. But yeah, it's, I don't know, it just sort of is what it is, really. But again, like, I mean, it being the very physics simulator kind of game mode that it is, you do need to work within, you know, the rolling ball physics, so, yes, Traveler's Tales, I got the Sonic physics correct. Oh, finally, then we're making a Sonic game. Well, I mean, they technically did. I mean, if I can say anything, the Atmosphere controls, it's, well, again, they did get the rolling ball physics right, and they did have their hand in the, you know, the Sega Saturn stages of Sonic 3D Blast, so it does work. You just gotta be very careful, which, again, to kind of talk about the Atmosphere in and of itself when you get to tight segments like this, it's very much just a matter of control. And again, that can lead to some very tense segments where, again, you need to steady your hand and, well, sort of control your movement, so to speak. So again, like, I mean, it might not seem like very exciting gameplay, but it does sort of, rest your control, so to speak. So, yeah, the Atmosphere, despite it looking a bit paltry in terms of presentation, gameplay-wise, though, it does, well, it does hit the mark. So, yeah. Go you Traveler's Tales, and, this would eventually make a return as its own little game mode with, basically the Crashing Cortex beat-me-up sugar-me-doos from, Twinsanity, so, yeah, they keep the mode going strong. And what is this? Crash Bandicoot with a helipack? Oh no, somebody call Insomniac. Plot hole. Even though this game came out before Ratchet & Clank, so Insomniac ripped off a shitty game. But yeah, these controls pretty much control very similarly to the jetpack in Crash Bandicoot 2, although, given the setup though, would people find this easier or just as finicky to control as the one in Crash Bandicoot 2? Because even the jetpack with the refined Naughty Dog controls in Crash 2, a lot of people do still have a lot of issues with in terms of how, yeah, I'd say precise would be probably the accurate word to use, because yeah, you're very much just trying to gradually navigate your way by feeling. I mean, given the dangerous environments here, that does sort of make sense, but I don't know, I guess when people saw it, they sort of expected something a little bit more action-packed akin to, you know, Hang On or Space Harrier or something like that, but I don't know. It's neither here nor there in this case. But anyway, the helipack was pretty much there to be sort of one gimmick deal as we enter into, well, the volcanic base of Cortex. That is very much where Crunch and Pyro lay at the center. Scientific goons that look more like they're going to a fucking poetry reading. Yes. Although, to kind of talk about some cut elements of Wrath of Cortex, actually, yeah, a lot of these levels were actually meant to have precursor/story elements. I don't think it would have been this level specifically, but there was one where, yeah, I think it was to do with, like, Crunch and Pyro kidnapping Coco for a certain amount of time, and, yeah, basically this level would have been the precursor to, you know, Crash trying to rescue her, which, again, it does also make me wonder what, you know, an earlier version of Wrath of Cortex would have been like, or what the full game would have been like, had Traveler's Tales been able to complete it, because, I don't know whether part of it was borrowing from an earlier version with Crash Bandicoot Worlds, which is, you know, a story I'll pretty much tell as soon as we get past the Pyro segment, but, yeah. Would be quite interesting to have seen just how this level really would have connected here and there. Because, I mean, I don't know, like, I mean, looking into the game's development history, it did seem like Traveler's Tales did want to have some, you know, level connectivity in terms of, you know, levels progressing and telling a story, as I mentioned beforehand, but, yeah, it's neither here nor there in this case. Oh, more usage of the sneak shoes. Oh, what a rewarding gameplay gimmick, where no doubt somebody was like, oh, that's enough development for one day, time for dinner. Oh no, Aku, you've been reduced to the level of 1. Ah, delicious, delicious boxes. You sustain me. Finally, we have achieved the 99 lives we need to survive. There we go, you keep cleaning that floor with the radiation or whatever. Oh my god, Crash is a skeleton! I don't know, they're playing around with visual effects, but I don't know, it's kind of adorable. Ooh, that would have killed a man named Crash. But Z-axis, motherfuckers, it's fantastic. Anyway, that's about all that she wrote for this level, so let's blow this bug. 99 lives, but we can never surpass it. But yeah, if you collect the invisibility crate, that also allows you to pass through those little laser beams. I don't really know how. I guess maybe Crash's invisibility mesh is meant to reflect light, as invisibilities are wont to do? Huh.
Ah, the triumphant hero Crash, reduced to a pile of smoldering ash.
Let's finish this.
I get a sneaking suspicion that this was meant to be the final part of, you know, the elemental battle of the game before you fight Cortex, but maybe I'm misremembering. In any case, though, we pretty much have our battle against Pyro Crunch, and, yeah, pretty cool, and again, similar to what I was saying earlier with, you know, the captured Coco, I do think there is actually some, remnants of that, data still technically in the level that we just can't see, so, yeah, that'd be quite cool. But anyway, jump into this little mech over here, and Aku Aku protects us, and now we just, oh, we'll spray water on you, as we chase after Crunch, but oh no, he destroyed it, and now it's pretty much another case of, run back even further to the next mech we can use to extinguish Crunch's flames, and dodging his balls, bright, burning orange balls. Excuse me, sorry, I just had a bit of gums in my throat, but, yeah, I mean, to kind of talk about anything else, though, soundtrack to, yeah, this little boss fight right here, pretty fucking sick. Run away, run away, run away, run away. It's kind of a surprise, like Crunch doesn't try and beat Crash up, I suppose, but then again, I suppose when he's fused with the elemental mask, he is very much susceptible to their weaknesses, so, yeah. I mean, it would certainly add credence to some of the in-warp room cutscenes, which, you know, where Crunch is pretty much going, I don't need a fucking mask, let me beat the shit out of this little bastard right then and there, but, yeah, I mean, it does also bring up a little bit of a thing, really. I mean, it was yet another cut gameplay element where Crash and Crunch were meant to square off, you know, mano-a-mano, but, yeah, we never technically get a full-on Crunch versus Crash Bandicoot, boss fight, so, yeah, I mean, that whole sort of, like, nerdy death battle-ish thingamatron of, like, oh my god, like, this character's more powerful than him, yeah, never really gets explored in the series, so that's a bit of a shame, really. Well, I mean, then again, in the current continuity, is Crunch even technically canon outside of Nitro Fueled and other racing spin-offs? And I can't say for certain, but anyway, Crunch is defeated! And now we get our Death Tornado spin. Oh, mentioning death in a kid's game. Oh no.
The Crash Bandicoot, eh? Oh, I've heard so much about you, and this is the hero I have to blow away? Ha! Seems like a bunch of hot air to me.
Yeah, by the way, they didn't exactly get much of a celebrity for, you know, the final air elemental, but, well, in some cases, I suppose, as we dance to the silly music, it is silly dancing time, whoopee, yeah. But, yeah, putting that aside, actually, yeah, the air elemental is actually voiced by Jess Harnell, who would pretty much take over the role of Crash Bandicoot from, 2005 onward. And if you want to know what he sounds like as Crash, it's pretty much pancakes! So yeah, I'm gonna call him Gibbering Crash, but that's pretty much just Harnell voicing the air elemental. So I guess I either ran out of celebrities or somebody on the development team is a really big fan of Animaniacs, and there we go, Jess Harnell. Or maybe he was looking at that role as Crash Bandicoot thinking like, man, if I can just voice the air elemental in this game, then I'll be set for life. Until the Crash Bandicoot series is no longer profitable. Which it seems to be again, because we haven't heard hide nor hair of Crash in a couple of years now. I don't know, I mean, I can't imagine that Activision, or at the very least Microsoft, would want to sit on a property like this, because, I mean, the Insane Trilogy proven that, I mean, current generation kids still love Crash Bandicoot, and they can enjoy it, you know, just as much as their parents did back in the 90s, so... Yeah, really, I just sort of have to wonder, what are they gonna do next? Or is it pretty much going to be treated as a Spyro kind of thing, where they'll pretty much use it to launch like a Skylanders sub-series, and then pretty much push it out of the way if it becomes successful slash not successful slash whatever, really. Business and marketing. It's all about getting the cold hard cash. You can buy a lot of neat stuff with that. Like hard drugs. Like that mountain of snow. That ain't snow that she's surfing on. That's actually coke. You're going down a mountain of cocaine, Coco. And think of where Coco came from. Just 'cause we got rid of Big Titty Tawna ain't means we can't snort a little bit more of that cocoa. Sweet little Coco. But yeah, putting all of that aside though, yes, so we're going through snowboarding. Extreme sports, dude! Which I suppose would have also been yet another influencing point of, this game, because, bear in mind, late 90s, early 2000s was very much the time for extreme sports, and... Oh man, I kinda miss that era, to be perfectly honest. I mean, apart from the fact that it got me into things like, extreme skateboarding and stuff like that, it's, snowboarding as well. I mean, I used to see a lot of those sorts of, events on television, and man, it was sick as hell, and, it had a sort of mythical quality for me, since I didn't really get to see a lot of snow growing up as a kid, but... Yeah, it's, cool. Delicious gems. Now we can make a cock-a-doodles with our gems, and I already made that joke. So it comes across as, cock-a-redundant to me? But now, we're getting serious. This level is a bit more mysterious, a bit more scientific. The power's down. We're gonna make sure that we make our way through Cortex's space station. If we don't do it, then we're all going to die. Yes. Tread carefully, Crash. By the way, you can't move and spin while you're on those tracks. And the only reason why I'm speaking softly is because this is a very serious level. Very mysterious, kind of X-Files in its thematics, and we have to hurry. By God, this thing moves so fucking slowly, I'd get rather angry if I didn't have to be quiet. Okay, I'm gonna completely cut that voice out, you don't need any gothic narration or poetry, but yeah, this is Droid Void, a level that does have another alternative exit, and yes, we're aboard Cortex's space station that we saw in the beginning of the intro. Steady. Steady. See, that's not fucking fair. The robot can move faster than fucking Crash can because it's not restricted by slow-moving platforming. But I mean, I guess to maybe talk about graphical differences between, Wrath of Cortex and, well, it's varying ports. Again, the PlayStation 2 version, slightly poorer graphical effects. But yeah, the Xbox version, best graphical fidelity as well as added fur effects on Crash. GameCube version is sort of a mixture in between. Albeit, I do think it keeps longer load times than the PlayStation 2 version, but don't quote me on that. There was actually a planned Dreamcast port of Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex, but that was cancelled at the 11th hour, likely because of development constraints, and in turn, well, 2001 being a very, very poor year for the Dreamcast. Oh dear. But yeah, and I mean, in terms of some of my favourite levels in the game, again, if it isn't, some of the underwater stages, space station levels, pretty high up there. Especially when they involve a lot of space station-y things, like, going through control rooms and getting to the escape pods and interacting with computer-y things. I don't know, the more you get to play with your level, the more fun that it is, really. Though that should sort of go without saying, it's fun to interact with video games. As we continue to explore the dark, mysterious recesses. With a little robot Meccano Man suit that is clearly inspired by somebody watching Alien the night before. Yes, indeedy. Would we ever hear of Titan's version of Crash going, Wagabloo, you bitch? Ah, well, we'll leave them be, including Robocop. Fucking space 1999 looking Buck Rogers in the 22nd century. Goons shooting their laser beams at us. But yeah, overall, I do happen to quite like the, the darkness theme levels with the sci-fi twists, from the first Crash Bandicoot game. Thankfully no longer involving the fucking, Aku Aku lightning bug gimmick where, oh no, if you run out, it's all over for good. So you can pack atmosphere and decent level design. Happy, happy, joy, joy. By the way, there are also mines in this level, so you better be careful, because otherwise, if you get into proximity, well, you're pretty much screwed, and Actually, hang on. I'm thinking here. Maybe they would have been, like, repurposed from some of the crates, because, again, you are seeing them that, they do detonate on proximity to Crash, so... Maybe they just had it as a basic explosion kind of thing, as opposed to, anything else. I don't know, maybe it was a modeling detail, maybe it's Maybelline. Either way, we need to make our way further into the base. It's mysterious and a little bit scary. Don't know if I can take it. We've almost made it, Crash. But yeah, we do have a few more space-themed levels, which, again, this isn't the space-themed warp room, so, yeah. I'm gonna hazard a guess that some of the levels were switched mid-development, but, it's neither here nor there in this case. As we destroy more boxes, and, now we take an alternate path. Yes, we have a different level ending. The music. It's mysterious again. But yeah, watch your shooting, and, yeah, see, look at that. Skipping over obstacles that were likely not intended to skip. Oh, Traveler's Tales. Well, clearly it is meant to be up to the skill of the player that you're able to dodge everything, is what Traveler's Tales would likely say, although then again, I'm not really too sure if John Burton has a lot of videos up on his, I'm trying to remember here. I know John Burton, who was one of the creative directors and lead designers of this game, had some stuff on Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex, because, I mean, he's done plenty of videos on some of his work on, I think it was Toy Story for the Mega Drive, you know, Sonic 3D Blast, obviously, Sonic R, and a couple of other projects he's worked on, so, yeah, I don't know if he's worked on anything related to Crash, Wrath of Cortex, or Twinsanity, but that would be quite interesting to hear if he's still posting videos. Yeah, but I guess that's neither here nor there in this case, as we make it onto the shiny disco ball. And now we get a spaceship level with Coco! But yeah, basically destroying orbital space stations, and if I can kind of critique some of the graphical fidelity with the space levels, yeah, apart from this place feeling very congested, there's also not a level of depth that's really put into a lot of the space backgrounds. I mean, everything pretty much looks like it's just sort of stuck there in space, like with a lot of the nebulas and everything, where it sort of feels like you're not really moving at all, which, again, if you can't really create the illusion of depth, that's, also a little bit odd, and it's also kind of to do with some of the things in the intro, like when you saw Planet Earth off in the distance with the space station. It looked like both of them were right next to each other, and again, like, the level of fidelity and, you know, lack of a layer between, you know, the Earth's atmosphere or anything, it kind of made the whole thing feel like, well, again, it's just somebody sticking together, like, it's like somebody stuck a globe, kind of like all those old science fiction serials where they just stuck like a globe of the Earth and that's pretty much their model. You know, with a spaceship that's much larger than the Earth, meant to be, you know, in closer proximity, but in reality it's just right next to the other model, which just looks, well, hinky. But yeah, anything else to really talk about with this little level is that, well, it's really easy to get pipped in this level, so, yeah. Again, my recommendation is still, again, if you want to go for a clean run, either be very skilled at what you do, or just destroy the boxes first, die, then destroy the space stations, and have a bit of health spared over so you can survive the onslaught of everybody pretty much getting up in your grill. There goes an alien! But in any case, so, a bit of trivia to talk about with the loading screens, actually, that showed, you know, Crash and Coco sort of falling down. Yeah, initially the way you were meant to enter the warp rooms rather than being teleported by that little, asteroid thing hovering above you, yeah, initially the panels were meant to open up and then you pretty much fall into the levels and teleport in that way, so... Yeah, that's part of why the loading screen is what it is, although apparently there was going to be something different for the loading screens entirely, with like an interactive minigame kind of thing while you wait. But yeah, due to licensing issues with Namco, that was apparently axed at the 11th hour, because I suppose it might have ripped off an arcade game they created. Does sort of make me wonder what it would have been, but I don't know, I guess, Pac-Man, Rally X, or is that even a Namco game, or am I thinking of, I don't know, just, yeah, old video game, and, ooh, Japanese developers, they will be quite angry. Well, I mean, then again, maybe that might have been a Konami issue, really, since they had the publishing rights at that time, and, you know, being a Japanese company, they'd be quite acutely aware of the competition. So, in any case, so, I guess, if I do have a bit of an extra level to talk about... should I talk about... No, I think I'll say that. I was initially going to talk about, you know, some of the earlier versions of Wrath of Cortex, but, I think I might save that, just to, you know, sort of pace out the commentary a little bit, because we do still have a fairly large chunk of game left to go, so, Yeah, I'll probably save that for after we've defeated the 4th Elemental Mask and, you know, we're well on our way into Cortex. But either way, though, we do still get to explore the beauty of the underwater areas. Ah, I'm home. But, I mean, yeah, it's, if I can recommend anything in terms of these stages, well, I mean, the submarine that you get doesn't exactly move very fast, but at the same time, you also don't want to move very fast. It's better to play this very methodically, more than anything else. Until you lose it. Oh, it's stuck in that little beer barrel, never to be seen again. Shucky darns, dude. But yeah, with the Death Tornado spin, we can increase our radius of spin and length of spin faster than we've ever gone before. Much like in Crash Bandicoot 3, which is where a lot of the power-ups are borrowed from. But I mean, even still though, like, I mean, again, despite there being a lot of rehashed elements, I still feel like the design does relatively hold up. It's, I guess maybe the fact that it isn't really that exciting, but I mean, even in that case, a lot of people do still appreciate, or at least can come to appreciate games with rehashed design, because I mean, and one example I am going to use is actually a lot of more recent reviews of Batman Arkham Origins. Like, I mean, the general consensus of that game, like, you know, 10 to 12 years ago now, was that the game was like, oh, it's basically just a carbon copy of Arkham City and you know, just sort of, You know, whereas nowadays you have people coming out of the woodworks going, oh man, it's an underrated game, it's literally so great, it's better than sex, your dick will explode, and... I mean, I guess time heals all wounds, I suppose. But I mean, even in that case, it's never happened to Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex, and... yeah... I don't know whether or not that's just purely down to the factor of not a lot of people getting a chance to play Wrath of Cortex, or just sort of taking word of mouth. It's like, oh, well, we have the real Crash Bandicoot 4 now. It's anybody's guess, I suppose, which... I mean, rather cynically, though, I mean, I don't want to say that, you know, having It's About Time is necessarily a bad thing, because, I mean, again, it is more Crash Bandicoot as you know and love it, but... I don't know, to sort of like push the old games out of continuity, like, yeah, well, I mean, even though we're the ones that made these shitty old games that you don't like, yeah, we're pushing them out of continuity, because this is the real shit right here. I don't know, it sort of rubs me the wrong way in a bit of a not Crash Bandicoot, in a bit of a Sonic Mania kind of way. You know, slightly attempting to rewrite the history books to be something that they weren't. But in any case, though, oh, shucky dawns, Crash Bandicoot has died and passed away again. But yeah, to kind of talk about a segment of the area you saw beforehand with, you know, those turrets on fire. Yeah, this level is similar to, what was it, the fucking Pyro Cortex castle level. Yeah, that was also initially meant to have its own little precursor level with, yeah, initially you were going to be Coco flying around in a little spaceship shooting out some of the turrets, and that basically being Crash's lead-in towards, well, this level. Again, it does make it a bit of a shame that they didn't actually let us have some of that connectivity, but them's the breakers, I suppose. But again, I do just love little elements like that, where you sort of connect it up to previous levels and give the games a sense of unity, progression, tangibility, for the lack of a better phrase. Bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. Making up sound effects to counteract my own lack of things to say, if you're skilled enough. But yeah, like, I mean, a lot of the cool little maneuvers that you could have utilized beforehand in Crash Bandicoot 1, well, more Crash Bandicoot 2 and 3, if anything. You know, Traveler's Tales did do their homework, and they did know how you could easily tip the scales in your favor if you knew how to manipulate Crash quite well, so, yeah. Overall, it's pretty freaking sweet. Bip, 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 bip. Bippy electronic music as we continue on forwards. I don't know though, like, I mean, again, it's sort of a similar vein to Ratchet & Clank 2 with the, you know, the Megacorp airship level in that game. I don't know, I quite like airship levels in terms of design here, especially as you're going through, like, a lot of the industrial areas right here. I don't know, it's quite cool. It's, yeah. Crash Bandicoot on the R101. It's the second time I brought that up. Guess what history Skully was researching not too long ago, in terms of aeronautics gone sour. But in any case, though, not too much of the level left to go, and yeah, kind of a good thing, because my editor's starting to lag a little bit, and worry that commentary might become askew. Good thing I'm invisible, so no one can see me. Well, I mean, except for here, because people need to hear me so they can still hear me. And oh no, the air vents, which why they aren't exactly creating a bit of a suction vacuum is anybody's guess, I suppose. But either way, after these last two boxes and a blow of the nitro destruction crate, bada bing, we've done the thing, and now it's on to our fourth and penultimate boss fight.
Hey, look! The orange boy likes to fly!
Time to earn your wings, kid.
Oh boy, here we go. Top Gun Crash Bandicoot style. High in the intensity, he flew into the fucking genie-looking crunch right over there. But in any case, so the place that you do directly want to hit is basically Crunch's hands, or anywhere where, well, the air elemental is. I want to say it's Lolo, I think, or I might be thinking of the panicky new mask from Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, but I can't really remember. But in any case, you do have a health bar to sort of, you know, keep you in the fight if you happen to be a bit loosey-goosey, but yeah, it's basically just a case of avoid lasers and, you know, shoot out some of the areas, so yeah, it's basically like a little bit more of a relaxed version of the engine boss fight from Crash Bandicoot 3, so yeah, nothing really to worry about, just apart from dodge the things and fire away. That being said, though, I do still quite like the look of the boss fight, the arid skies, you know, the barren wasteland down below, and, you know, a lot of the boss patterns and, you know, enemy attacks that you have to dodge versus where you need to shoot, so, on the whole, pretty decent boss fight. And, plus you are also seeing Crunch's, rather demonic skeleton right there, which, kind of makes him look like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster. Excuse me. Yeah, before this next cutscene, I'm probably gonna take a drink of the Pepsi and take a bit of a break, because my throat, she be getting mighty tired. But yeah, all that aside though, that's pretty much all she wrote in terms of the fight. Was that Aku Aku that just passed by, or... yeah, he's pretty much giving you your targeting reticle. So yes, Aku Aku and Crash. You know, I guess it does sort of go to show that he is having an active role in, you know, helping Crash stop the elementals, even though they are much more powerful than him, because, I mean, otherwise, I don't know, I suppose Aku Aku probably would have taken them all out right then and there. Well, then again, Uka Ruka was still there, and, you know, they had that whole little beam struggling thing from, you know, Crash Bandicoot 3, so I guess he couldn't do the whole thing by himself. Oh my god, lightning! Hadouken. I mean, it's more of a lightning thing anyway, so, who knows, whatever. He's nearly dead. He's firing his lasers, blurg. God, that's an ancient-ass fucking name, man. I feel old for referencing that. I mean, he wasn't shooting lasers out of his mouth, but, oh well, a bit of nostalgia for ancient internet memes gone by. Firing his laser, blurg, and his skeleton exploded. He had a case of bonus eruptus. Anyway, enjoy the cutscene, and I'm gonna take a much-needed drink.
Well, here we are again. I wouldn't necessarily call this irony, but don't you find it a little odd that we keep meeting under these same world domination circumstances? Why not just give up? And let me win for once!
Don't worry, Dr. Cortex. Now that my elemental powers have reached maximum capacity, this little geek is gonna wish he was never created.
So, now we've pretty much hit the final stretch of the game. Well, the final stretch and a little something extra, given the fact that, again, cribbing notes from Crash Bandicoot Warped, well, yeah, it's gonna be a little something extra. But in the meantime, though, as we do start to get towards the end of the game, and particularly with this area, which did have some relevance in the original version of, you know, what Wrath of Cortex was meant to be, it's time to get into some development history about what the original Crash 4 would have been like. Namely with one of the earlier projects, Crash Bandicoot Worlds, which was initially intended to be the fourth main series game, but it wasn't developed by Traveller's Tales. Instead it was actually being headed up by Sony Games, headed up by Mark Cerny, who, again, on top of being part of the reason why Naughty Dog has a career outside of Way of the Warrior, used to be the president of Universal Interactive Studios, but he left to form his own gameplay studio. And yeah, from, you know, early year 2000, he was the one responsible for, well, developing the new Crash Bandicoot game. And basically, to give you an idea as to what this game would have been like, it basically would have been Crash Bandicoot traveling to plenty of different planets and worlds. And yeah, basically liberating the world from Cortex's evil schemes. And there is actually a few elements that actually would end up making it into later iterations of Crash Bandicoot. Namely, for one thing, that it would have also introduced Dr. Neo Cortex's daughter, niece, named Rio Cortex, and yeah, she is a character who would have turned from evil to good to help the forces of Crash and the Bandicoot. And yeah, for those of you who know your Twinsanity, she ended up becoming the basis for Nina Cortex from, you know, Twinsanity onwards. Well, I mean, Twinsanity slash the Crash and Spyro GPA games that nobody really likes all that much. I don't know, but either way, yeah, that was one of the initial concepts, and this was one of the levels that, again, both this and a certain ice level were pretty much the only basis of what remains of that original vision. I mean, not that this level is open world by any stretch, but a lot of the aesthetics were very much borrowed heavily from that version of the game. But now, I suppose you're wondering what exactly happened. Well, yeah, later on, Universal lacked confidence in a new gameplay formula and, you know, Mark Sony sort of doing his own thing. They were worried that it wouldn't turn out so well, even though open world games from Mario 64 to even Naughty Dog's Jak and Daxter look to be proving that, yes, it can be done, and it can be done quite well. But either way, yeah, they basically pulled the rug out from under Sony Games by getting a publishing deal struck with Konami, and then they ended up handing the reins over to Traveler's Tales as work-for-hire developers to pretty much remake the style into a traditional Crash game, and only giving them 12 months to do it. So, yeah, while this was still very much an era where you could cut, print, and sell a hit game within a year, that also requires, well, again, you know, a solid vision from the outset, which this one was pretty much taken from the open-world Crash Bandicoot formula to something completely different into, you know, more traditional Crash gameplay, which was achievable. But again, and, you know, something I can agree with a lot of people on in the sense that, you know, while Wrath of Cortex can be seen as a bit of a rehash, at the same time, though, it is also something that sort of goes to show that Naughty Dog had done pretty much all that they could feasibly do with the concept, and that by this stage, really, well, again, there's not really too much else you could really do with the, you know, switch between 3D and 2D sort of gameplay that we've seen here. I mean, there was Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time, but, you know, there was 20 years divorce and bereft with plenty of other platformer games that came in the years since with, you know, technological updates of the yin-yang. This, on the other hand, is just sort of, well, yeah, Traveler's Tales just trying to make the best out of a bad situation, really. Delicious, delicious molten magma and utilizing the fruit bazooka to get a tasty gem, while we get the other tasty gem by smashing up more boxes. But yeah, anyway, by, you know, 2001, Sony was out, Konami had the publishing deal, and, basically, yeah, just sort of left wondering with what could have been. And I mean, I will say, it is a bit of a shame that we didn't get Crash Bandicoot Worlds as it was, because I mean, it does sound like it would have been a really interesting game, and I mean, speaking of Mark Cerny, like, I mean, again, he did have a pretty heavy hand with, you know, the Naughty Dog developed Crash Bandicoot game, since, you know, for a time he was president of Universal Interactive Studios, so yeah, I think it honestly would have worked out for the best, and, you know, why that company had no faith in their former fucking president is, I don't know, I guess I just weren't a fan of the open world formula, but I mean, even again, as history has shown, oh no, you didn't go for an ambitious new gameplay style, and it fucked up for you. Well, I mean, there was also the whole thing with Crash Twinsanity also being open world, but even that game in and of itself had a rushed development cycle, and that's, whew. Well, I mean, if you're starting to wonder why the hell Crash of the Titan / Mind of a Mutant was really a thing, that's because, well, rushed development cycles and basically just driving everything out of the traditional Crash formula into the ground was very much how we ended up in our current situation, so yeah, Crash Bandicoot is very much a gameplay cautionary tale of what could have been if, you know, people's heads aren't stuck up their asses. But anyway, here's what you didn't see in this lovely little level, as we head over to a new path, a new world, with a brand new attitude. Yeah, to kind of, consider some things that I'm a little bit unclear on as to, primarily as to why the hell Universal Interactive Studios entered a publishing deal with Konami, because, I mean, Konami had fuck all to do with Crash Bandicoot beforehand, and I don't know, was it like for ease of development on other consoles, or was it just for name recognition? Because, I mean, Konami did already have their own titles from Castlevania, Silent Hill, Metal Gear, and all that kind of stuff, so really, I'm just not really too sure what the go-ahead was with Universal Interactive picking them, really. Oh well, but anyway, part of the reason why you do want to access that pathway is because you do in fact get the Super Belly Flop, useless as an ability as it might be, but, I mean, you know, it's there, so, aqueous, that's kind of why I thought I need to show that. In any case, though, now we have the Wild West that we can actively explore with this little hootenanny town. But yeah, apart from that, though, it is also where you get to see some of the enemy design looking very, stock assets, particularly with this cow that just doesn't look anything like a, you know, traditional Crash Bandicoot-style enemy, but I don't know, though, for the sake of mission variety, it does look like a very cool little western town with meats, onions, cheese, and a Mexican standoff with a delicious steak sandwich that will make your mouth water from here to Texas. But yeah, music's also pretty snazzy for this portion, so don't really have too much to complain about, really. It's kind of weird, actually. I was sort of thinking about postponing the rest of this commentary for a bit later in the day, but, you know, I took a 30-minute break. I decided to, you know, I decided to say fuck it and go hell for leather, so yeah, if I'm feeling a little bit doolally and out of breath in places, I do apologize, but, you know, commentating for 2 hours straight with very little breaks and, you know, nobody else to really pick up the commentating slack. It's harder than it looks, man, and you might not think that flapping your gums could be quite, you know, as taxing on your throat, but it is. It really, really is, but, you know, that's why you gotta keep a good flow going. Oh, man. I might end up losing my voice as one of these Australia days, which makes me wonder whether I should keep going with them, or, I don't know, maybe this be the genuine last one, the final adventure, but, I don't know. I'll see what everybody else has to say about it, and if not, then, acquiesced, really. Well, let's see, do I have any other commentary tangents to talk about as we... Oh, no, I don't. Oh, that's pretty much all she wrote, really. There was actually, in terms of, like, again, Naughty Dog developers talking about the Crash series and the aftermath. Yeah, I mean, the only person who I really know that talked about Wrath of Cortex specifically was, Andy Gavin, who was, you know, one of the two Naughty Dog founders who was still working there at the time, but basically... Oh yeah, he pretty much shared a lot of the fan sentiments that it was basically a cut-down version of Warped, and, again, that, well, yeah, Traveler's Tales pretty much did everything that Naughty Dog had done, except just, well, you know, it's just that there was not really much else to go, which I guess was probably part of the reason why they went whole hog with Twinsanity being the open-world game that it was, but, yeah, it's neither here nor there in this case. Wee, minecart gimmicks, woohoo. But yeah, I mean, that was probably a little bit more kind of than what Andy Gavin had to say about Crash of the Titans and Mind of a Mutant, where he basically described it as watching your daughter do porn. So, yeah, poor radical entertainment. But I mean, I guess even to talk about some of the Mind of a Mutant games, they in and of themselves were also very much Crash Bandicoot on dire straits, and also at a time when interest in the franchise was at an all-time low, and yeah. I'm not going to say that that was the complete reason as to why Radical Entertainment ended up falling by the wayside, but, yeah, I mean, the fact that they also had a lot of games like Prototype 2 being undercut compared to what it otherwise would have been is kind of a shame, really. Especially with a studio with such a long-lasting history, but... I don't know, I guess, them's the break sometimes. Man, look at that beautiful looking skybox. Yeah, now the music has settled down, which I suppose can talk about a minor issue that some people might just sort of start going, poor aesthetic issue, but yeah, the fact that the music doesn't really have a natural fade-in, fade-out transition, but rather just sort of goes to and fro from, you know, it starts, plays its full track, then it stops for a fraction of a second, then plays again. Again, details that this only hyper-attention deficit-spanning generation would really tend to notice and get irritated by in a very sort of spoony experiment kind of way. Oh my god, falling explosives! But yeah, all that aside though, it does make me wonder whether or not this theme was meant to appear much earlier in the game for, you know, the time that you were fighting the Rocco Elemental, but, nothing here nor there in this case. Anyway, we do also have the Fruit Bazooka making its return. I already brought that up beforehand, but, yeah, it does also work in very similar fashion to how it functioned in, you know, Crash Bandicoot 3, where you're pretty much stationary while you use it, but, yeah, you can pretty much manually aim and lock on target and fire away. Can make it quite useful for, again, as you're seeing right there, as a means of getting some gems and, you know, killing yourself, going back down the other pathway, and bada bing, you do the thing and can detonate some nitroglycerin, and, well, Bob's your uncle, you pretty much solve the problem. Yeah, but either way though, I mean, I guess the sort of compliment, well, a compliment slash was sort of expected for the time, but, yeah, the water effects in Wrath of Cortex look actually really fucking nice. I know I probably talked about that back during the, you know, some of the earlier Aqua levels, but, again, very PlayStation 2 and something that the PS1 could only really do with Naughty Dog with the arbitrary Z buffer, as I believe they called it for, you know, wave motion gameplay. But, I mean, it is still worth noting that, I mean, the level of water effects that they have going on right here were actually pushing the PS2 right to its limits, so, I guess that might have been partially a reason why, for the very lengthy load times, you know, apart from the CD format in, you know, the original release of Wrath of Cortex, but, yeah. Needless to say, though, yeah, very, near GameCube level water effects, I should say, so, you know, could give Wrath of Cortex its pips where it can. Oh, dearie me, that was close. Oh, delicious crystals. And we have nearly finished. Beautiful looking Mexican rugs out there, but, that's neither here nor there in this case. Come on, stop being greedy for apples slash peaches slash, Wumpa fruit. No idea why they really called that, there's no such thing. I guess maybe it was, I don't know, maybe Naughty Dog wanted to have their own line of, like, fruits to sell. Who knows, really. Tell your parents about Crash Bandicoot so we can make lots of loot, and so on and so forth. In any case, though, more exploration for the level, as we finally make tracks towards the end of the Cortex levels. Even though we have a fuckload of them left to go, so, neither here nor there in this case. And then the craving sets in when you run out of commentary, so, yeah. I don't really got too much else to say. I guess I could possibly talk about some other cancelled Crash Bandicoot projects, but, none of them were really quite as interesting as, Crash Bandicoot Worlds, really, which, I don't think, whether for legal reasons or, I guess because, Traveler's Tales had to sort of rework it to their own ideas, yeah, there is no real remnants of what, you know, the original setting of Crash Bandicoot Worlds would have been like in the game. But I mean, even still, it does use a few of its assets though, so I guess maybe that's potentially one thing that they would have had? I really don't know for certain, but, in any case though, to talk about the game's actual design, I will say that some of these levels, like, you know, the Atmosphere level right here, and, well, I suppose a lot of the Atmosphere levels in general, with its sort of isometric view. Yes, a very Sonic 3D blast, darling. Yes, rather. Oh yes, I do believe this was also used in one of the enhancement trailers for Wrath of Cortex. Or at least one that I remember anyway, but, yeah. It's just sort of is what it is, really. But anyway, I guess to go further into, you know, some other points about Wrath of Cortex that, I do sort of enjoy, really. See, look at those water effects. Very beautiful looking. Well, I got nothing really, but, I mean, I guess to further discuss what the Atmosphere sort of likes in terms of anything else is that, well, again, I think I sort of brought it up earlier, but I mean, it's very much a sort of like a literal glass cannon kind of thing. Again, you can pretty much run over regular enemies, but, again, you can easily get pipped by hazards and, well, also quite easily stopped with your momentum as, you know, given halt and it throws off your groove, really. I mean, the level design is also quite simple by proxy of your limited control scheme, so it does make getting the boxes in one fell swoop a bit of a breeze, if one where you really need to master your control. I'm not really sure what to say, really. It's just really just sort of a method of, you know, adequately maintaining your balance. So I suppose, in that essence, maybe some people's problems with this sort of control scheme could potentially be that, you know, that isn't quite as fast and, you know, utilizing momentum-based physics in a sort of Sonic the Hedgehog kind of way. You know, where people just want to be gone fast flipping around the loops and utilizing their own momentum-based physics for, you know, fun, but, I don't know, it does make these segments oddly tense when you are trying to sort of control your muscles in a very weird way and just sort of keep Crash rather still, because, I mean, again, like, the slight bit of momentum that will gradually get him rolling in a bit of a snowball effect, so you do very carefully need to watch your guard. Careful, Crash. Steady. We have an arrow full of apples to lead us to where we need to go. Steady. And yeah, I mean, I'm saying this much though, but I mean, again, if you're not very careful at controlling, you know, where the ball goes, then very much this ball will control you, and no, Tiny doesn't actually take the opportunity to destroy, he just sort of hops to the left and right, because that's all he's good for these days. He can't move forevermore. Yeah, there's a cameo of Dingodile and Entropy. One, crime against nature, the other, law of thermodynamics. But yeah, this is, definitely a case where, again, sometimes you can utilize the rolling ball physics to sort of, you know, just get ahead if you know how to manipulate it right, but at the same time, though, that takes a lot of practice and, well, again, mastery of momentum-based physics, so, I mean, if you're up to the challenge, you can actually cut through some of these levels fairly well, but, you know, it also requires a certain level of skill that some people might not have, so, just be very careful. That's all I'm gonna say for now, but, again, the Atmosphere levels are very much a winner in my eyes. Delicious gems. We falling down the portal again. Is this what it's like inside a teleporter? Who knows, really? Well, I mean, then again, your items are being reconstructed somewhere else and reconstructed somewhere else, so, who knows, really? I always wonder what it felt like to be teleported, if you technically die, or what kind of accidents can befall in there. Your items reconstructed in the wrong part. Queased. In any case, though, we have yet another space stage with a slightly less mysterious theme than Droid Void, but I don't know, I do quite like the atmosphere, and it does kind of make me feel like somebody was watching the original Alien movies in terms of the atmosphere and ambience of, you know, how these levels are very much set up. But again, that's all very good, you know, it's all a bit of a good thing to me. It does... Again, this was very much during the era where, you know, taking inspiration from films for your gameplay segments could create some really cool things. I mean, I suppose maybe technically the legalese of, you know, people considering video games, oh, well, I mean, they're not just a thing for babies anymore. Probably has a little bit more to do with the fact that nobody else is really able to get away with stuff like this without, you know, people suing one company over the other, but, I don't know, it's, I don't know, I mean, in a very Resident Evil kind of way, where, you know, you can quite easily track a lot of the influences from, you know, the Terminator, The Thing, and, you know, a plethora of zombie movies that, you know, gave a lot of good influence for video games. Although I suppose nowadays people have to be a little bit more subtle about that kind of thing, but I don't know, it's an era of one media and art form informing the other that's haven't quite missed. You know, much in the same way that a lot of classic films are inspired by ancient novels, and, you know, novels are inspired by word-of-mouth oral stories, and, you know, everything else. Oh no, a giant explosion, gotta run away again. This could use some more exciting music, like a rocking guitar theme as you run. But again, stuff like this is just, again, tertiary isn't my theme, but running away from a giant explosion, never fails to make me smile. Oh no, the blast door ain't gonna hold it for much longer. We gotta hurry, Crash! Run away, run away, run away, run away. Gotta make sure we don't die from the explosion, or else everything is screwed. Oh, well, I mean, we do technically have an Aku Aku mask, although I don't know if the explosion kind of envelops all of us, so... Yeah, it might be an instant kill, I can't quite remember at present. Oh no! The blast doors can't contain it! We gotta hurry to the teleporter Ammerdoodle! Run, Crash. Run away! Run away, run away, run away, run away. Level, we need you to end. Finally, the door is sealed. But for how long? In any case, so, yeah, we're very much near the end as we nearly slid off to our doom. But yeah, in any case, space levels, all in all pretty good. As we also come up towards last space level, which actually has a reference to an old Cortex evil scheme with the Cortex Vortex. And you'll be seeing what that is as we enter the teleporter Ammerdoodle. Yes. And from one level leading on to the next, we finally have... Come on now. Cortex Vortex. See, look, level progression. Yes, yes. I mean, it does kind of make me wonder what Wrath of Cortex would have been like if it maybe had a map structure similar to Crash Bandicoot 1 with one level leading into the next, but then again, I suppose that probably only would have been the case if, well, I don't know, I guess maybe if Wrath of Cortex had a, you know, a more well-thought-out development cycle and they decided to go back to the map structure to even vestigially just sort of differentiate itself from most of the Naughty Dog games, but... Yeah, well, neither here nor there in this case, and finally we can avert those annoying shield dudes by just going around them. Yes, Z-axis, motherfuckers. But yeah, compared to anything else though, this is very much just sort of well, basic platforming sugar-me-do. So yeah, traditional Crash Bandicoot style level for what was meant to be the final boss fight, and again, you do technically need to fight the final boss so you can get access to the time trials and, you know, pretty much do all the time trials, get access to some of the secret levels that you'll be seeing in a little bit, but, yeah, in the meantime, I'm pretty much just going to be cutting immediately to the whole cutscene over, wait, Cortex, Crash has to get the gems, because arbitrary gameplay thing or whatever, but, I mean, it does at least partially explain that, oh, we revived the elemental masks so they can be used in the final boss fight again, so... heck waste. Again, it's just trying to be the whole sort of like, oh, let's prove to us that we can do the thing of whatever again. But again, it's done in such an arbitrary way that I find just to be a little bit pissed, to be honest. I mean, to this day, my favorite, you know, you can go for 100% or just not really bother with it, is still Ape Escape, because in the sense that, again, in Ape Escape 1, you know, you can defeat Spectre's plot, and he has that whole, oh, don't worry, I'll conquer Earth and be evil next time, you know, leading into Ape Escape 2, if you so choose, or if you do choose to complete Ape Escape 100%, squaddle, Spectre is caught, and, you know, then happily ever after until Ape Escape 2. So, yeah. Serves both audiences who either just want a, you know, cruisy gameplay experience without, you know, going after absolutely everything, or they can just sort of, you know, go after 100% and feel accomplished for their efforts. Here we go, sequence breaking. Ho! Making it trivial with your Death Tornado spin. Well, one power-up begets another, I suppose. Oh my god, it's RoboCop and his hipster scientist buddies! Oh well, we still got another gem Ammerdoodle to collect. Oh dear. But yeah, in any case, so, Cortex Vortex, decent final stage, got some pretty good atmosphere about it, a pretty decent techno tune going on, so, overall, I'm fairly happy with the amount of levels that we have in this game. I do know that I am starting to falter with things to say about them, but I mean, really... Again, I would have... again, as you probably have heard all throughout the previous Australia days, I would have had that same sort of, you know, feel with even, you know, the Naughty Dog era Crash games, as you've seen me ramble, mumble, and stumble my way through those, so, yeah. It's nothing to worry about, really. I could create a mumble rap out of my, Crash Bandicoot commentaries. But in any case, so, abusing invincibility, and, yeah, we've almost made it to the end, so, yeah, 5 levels to go, and, I'll let you enjoy the cutscene, dude, so, see you in a bit.
Can't you ever let me win? What do you want from me, you cretin?
Cortex! You realize that Crash may have collected all the crystals, but he doesn't have the gems. With the gems, we can resurrect the masks one last time, and destroy that Bandicoot once and for all!
So, if you take the center platform here and we enter the Matrix. now we pretty much enter the last 5 levels, and yeah, you know, for the last 5 levels, since Crash Bandicoot has an Aku Aku and Crunch has the elementals, here's my little buddy, Chaos the Cat. Say hello, girl. Yeah, well, you probably couldn't hear that anyway, depending on where I was placing the microphone, but anyway, she's just decided to come in to say hello and do a little bit of a flop. And she's pestering me for a cuddle, which I must give to her because she's very cute. Yeah, but yeah, these are very much the sort of bonus levels, and in this case, well, we have Return of the Firefly levels, where follow the light, or else you will die, and if you do not wait, the fly will leave you in darkness. Yes, but luckily, we're all here in the light, where we can enjoy ourselves. Hang on a second. Come on, girl. There you go. You're nice and settled in to watch some Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex, with some of the bonus levels that you probably would have only seen when I was playing the game. Yes, nice and cute. Yes. But yeah, putting all that aside though, a lot of the levels around here are very much, you know, in keeping with Crash Bandicoot Warp's extra levels. They're very much just, I wouldn't say they're entirely gimmick-based, but again, they do have like a lot of, you know, vehicle aspects for them to utilize, so yeah. A lot of them aren't really, well, I mean, I'd say they're unique, but in the sense that they tend to use some of the more unique elements just to, you know, spice up these last 5 levels that you need to get the 100% ending. Which again, I've already stated how much of a bugbear I find them to be, so yeah, not really too much else to say as we ram through obstacles. But yeah, I mean, in terms of anything else that I'm also not showing, as I probably mentioned at the beginning, but might as well reiterate for the sake of itself, yeah, this game does also contain time trials, and you do need to, you know, complete all 25 of them for the main stages in order to unlock these individually in segments of 5, so yeah, you do need to kind of put the work in to get these levels, but, you know, that's what speedchews are for. And in this case, we also have a minecart race with, Crunch. Rather unusual that he's challenging Crash to a kart race, but I don't know, I guess he just so happened to be in the neighborhood, and, yeah, your main objective here is primarily just to get all the boxes, and, that'll pretty much be that, as well as, you know, beating Crunch at his own game to get an additional gem, and, oh, it seems you want to go outside now, girl. Do excuse me a second, I have to attend to a cat. And now thou hath returned, in bizarre time dilation fashion, but yeah, now that all 25 crystals have pretty much been collected in the main levels, you don't really need to worry about, you know, finding a crystal on the main pathway. From this point on, it's all about those delicious, tasty gems. God, Crash's pocketbook is gonna be full tonight. Well, provided that he knew how to sell gems for extreme financial gain, and not just sort of, I don't know, collect them as shiny rocks. Well, I mean, I guess maybe technically, you know, the whole thing was more that Cortex was collecting them for the sake of, financing his evil scientific research, but I don't know. I mean, apart from a few other tertiary uses, like using them to focus a laser beam, like was the case in Crash Bandicoot 2, or, I don't know, powering the elemental masters we're seeing here, yeah, I guess not really a lot of uses outside of being a bizarre pseudo Chaos Emerald rip-off energy source kind of thing, as it seems to be the case. Yeah, well, anyway, now we have basically our Rings of Power level. Well, sort of anyway. By the way, this little polar bear on an enemy, that wasn't initially designed for this level. That was actually a cut enemy from, I believe Crash Bandicoot Wars, that was just, you know, gonna be a hazard that was in your path. So yeah, a magical polar bear, allowing us to sort of fly around the environments. Ah, how much fun. No, but in any case, so, you might have a bit of an easier time doing this than you would have with the plane levels, since the plane in Crash Bandicoot 3 kind of controlled a bit like ours, but yeah, overall though, yeah, more hella-pack fun. And, you know, more Insomniac games going into Crash Bandicoot. What's that? Is that a PC game? Which, I mean, I couldn't really do because they were quite chummy with Naughty Dog, even all the way back then when the whole Crash and Spyro rivalry was at its... Well, rivalry? It was more of a friendship, really, since both development teams sort of paid homage to each other, so... Yeah, the Naughty Dog Insomniac friendship, she be mighty strong. I mean, at the very least it was back then. I'm not really too sure if Naughty Dog and Insomniac are on equal terms today. I mean, at the very least, nowhere near as friendly as I otherwise used to be, because, I mean, you know, I mean, you don't see any of that sort of cross-pollination in, like, The Last of Us, or that, like, fucking whatever space bounty hunter game or whatever that they're working on now. You know, the one that everybody got upset over because of ugly, bald women. Queesh, whatever. I haven't paid attention to Naughty Dog in years. The ones that made my Jack and Dr. Emmerdoodle are long gone. So I can basically just sit here smugly knowing that I don't give a fuck. The best position to be in franchises that you don't give a shit about, but are being ruined. But in any case, though, we now have Solar Ball, our final slash, well, you know, extra super Emmerdoodle hard version of, well, the Atmosphere. But again, it does get a very cool spacey kind of vibe about it, and, you know, rather paltry as some of the space visuals are in this game, I don't know. Just crawling across the exterior of a little, you know, solar satellite thing over here. I don't know, it is quite cool, and, you know, it feels homely. But yeah, it is also playing an earlier variant of the final credits music of the game, so, yes, the soundtrack should be getting mighty limited. But all that aside, though, this is probably the longest level stretch in the game. Well, in the game, well, I mean, it can be if you're not very good at the Atmosphere and you're taking a bit of your time to sort of maximize the control, but, yeah. I do feel like it is the one level in the game that does sort of utilize the, you know, the level of your control over the Atmosphere to, you know, the nth degree, and it does also sort of, play a bit of its hand with momentum-based physics here, so, yeah, you are going to be, well, not necessarily enjoying the speed, unless, of course, you have really good control, but you are going to be enjoying the handling? Yeah, because, I mean, you're not exactly very powerful in this thing, but, yes, as the old saying goes, speed and power can solve many things. But yeah, it's very much just sort of a case of being able to navigate your way on where to go and, you know, ensuring that you clean up every pathway you possibly can to collect all the boxes and, you know, by the time you're done with that, you should be ready to tackle Dr. Cortex and his Crunch Emmerdoodle. And I don't know why I'm still using the Emmerdoodle thing. I reserved that for Tails and the Chaos Emmerdoodles, but now it's just, once again, going into my lexicon. My poor lexicon. I've sullied it with a whole bunch of different words and phrases and things that don't otherwise mean what they mean, and now the cat wants to come back inside again. Jesus Christ, woman. You wanted to cuddle, but then you're like, I want to go in, but now I want to go back outside. I want to go in, then I want to go out. I want to go in, then you want to go out. I want to go in, then I want to go out. And that's what it's like having a cat while you're trying to do commentary. So, you know what? She can wait until I'm finished with Solar Bowler! Alright, yeah! Look at that yellow pea nebula! Well, I mean, not technically speaking, I mean, it's probably more of some sort of solar gases and mists that, well, will probably rip your starship apart something fierce if you go right into them, but then again, I'll also need to research what nebulas are actually made out of. Whether or not it is some sort of, you know, a high temperature, you know, gas or, you know, giant or whatever. A celestial being in the stars, for lack of a better phrase, so, yeah. In any case, our final Coco level of the now is, I forgot what it was called. I think it might be Ice Station Bandicoot, but, don't quote me on that. Obviously being a riff on the film Ice Station Zebra, but in any case, though, it's got sparkly lights, a lot of traditional housing. Oh, it's Christmas, but Christmas is long over with. I'm sad now. Yeah, but oh well. Anyway, as we continue to go through this winter wonderland, anyway, Coco gets to be looking good, dude! By going extra extreme! And, yeah, this one is very much going to be testing your verticality as you're able to hit some of the boxes with your snowboard, because I don't think you get the opportunity to go backwards, I don't think, so, yeah, you're going to be really on the ball with this one. But I mean, then again, a lot of the ones that you do have to dodge are nitro, so it's really just the ones suspended in the air that, you know, you really got to be on the lookout for, so, boxes, thy name is Coco, and I will destroy thou with thy extreme boarding skills, dude! Oh yeah, alright, 99 lives and we can't go beyond. Kinda makes you wonder what the point is, apart from artificial difficulty. Although I suppose while I have the time to bring it up, yeah, the game over screen is basically Cortex in that little boardroom meeting, space station area where he goes, game over, you suck, Crash, and that's pretty much it, really. Yeah, not really too exciting compared to some of the other game over screens, but better than the Insane trilogy that kind of cheaped out by having the Uka Uka screen for all 3 games rather than, you know, utilizing the unique game screens for everybody else, but quiche, I suppose. But anyway, by the time you get all the gems and crystals, go to the center here, and it's crunch time.
Congratulations, Crash. You should be proud of yourself. Not only have you collected all the crystals in record time, but you also defeated the elementals. Let Crunch and me be the first ones to congratulate you.
By pummeling your sad bandicoot frame into a pulp. Come and get it.
And so, the last time we'll ever see this loading screen as Crash falls into the ether. And now we very much get our final boss fight of the game. Cortex and Crunch Bandicoot. Which does actually have a lot to do with my final bit of trivia, but first I'll sort of just talk about what's going to be going on. Basically, all 4 of the elemental masks are basically going to be powering up Crunch, and, you know, utilizing each specific attack. So, yeah, by the time Crunch is a little bit dizzy, utilize your Fruit Bazooka to pretty much take him down. Crunch gets a little bit pissy, knocks Cortex onto the floor, and then you pretty much got to pip Cortex. Wash, rinse, repeat as you have various little attacks from, you know, the water elemental, then the air elemental, and all sorts of things. By the way, the water attack basically freezes you in place, so, yeah, it's not an automatic kill, but it will leave you stuck long enough for, well, you to get pipped, so do be careful. But in any case, though, the one thing I do want to bring up before we come to the end of this boss fight is that, yeah, Crunch and Cortex were intended to be a 2-phase boss fight where, again, you fight one and then the other, thus explaining Crunch's final line in the ending where, yeah, Crunch would have been fought first, and then you would have ended up fighting Cortex, where you would have destroyed the control box, which is basically how he's controlling Crunch. Again, because of the fact that they all sort of combined the 2 boss fights together, yeah, kinda leads to a bit of a misnomer as to how Cortex is really keeping the leash on Crunch, and, well, more or less leads to a bit of forced exposition, so, yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate, and another thing unfortunate is really that, well, this boss fight can be a very bit of a lengthy wait and kind of a bio-lizard slash, you know, res boss fight from Gex and Sonic Adventure 2 retrospectively, in the sense that it does take a long time for phases to sort of, you know, get up in your grill, so again, if you happen to fall at the last hurdle, you're pretty much doing all of that work again, and it takes a long time to get back to where you were, so that by the time you do get back to where you were, you don't really remember much of the mistakes that you otherwise would have made, and as a result of that, well, you know, a lot of your platform and memorization skills will be a little bit out of whack, really. I mean, if you do fail enough times, it will eventually stick in your memory as, you know, Pavlovian learning is of want to do, but at the same time, though, yeah, some of the lightning attacks like this can have a tendency to sort of pip you unless you're, well, far away. Get closer and the hitboxes are also closer, so, whoop-de-doodle. But now it's time to lay the smack down to Cortex, and, I'll take a drink of the Pepsi and you get to watch the last cutscene of the game, so, yeah, see you in a bit. As Uka drags Cortex back up for a talking to.
No, Uka Uka, I can explain. It's too late for that now! I don't think you should have done that.
Oh, no. Where am I? Hey, wait a second. That annoying scientist doesn't have control over me anymore. Where is that pathetic twerp?
There's no time for that now, Crunch.
Danger. Critical power overload in EVIL Space Station. Run for your lives.
I think your energy bolt caused a slight chain reaction. It might be wise if we made our way to the escape pods.
This is all your fault! If you hadn't ducked out of the way, none of this would have happened!
This doesn't look good.
Hey, any of you guys need a ride?
Crash, Coco, Aku, I'm grateful to all of you. If it weren't for you, I'd still be under the control of Dr. Cortex. Thank you for believing in me, guys.
You're welcome, Crunch. Hey, do you think that's the last we'll see of Dr. Cortex and Uka Uka?
I'd like to believe that, my children, but somehow I doubt that very much.
Idiot! Fool! Nincompoop!
You've landed us in the middle of nowhere! Ouch! Whoa! No, wait! I can explain! Ah! I'll get my revenge, Crash Bandicoot! Just you wait!
And thus, that's where Uka and Cortex will remain until Twinsanity comes out. But, yeah, that was Crash Bandicoot The Wrath of Cortex. A game developed by a British studio that was responsible for imprisoning my ancestors and sending them to the Australian colonies, and, well, I'm holding a grudge against the English. You'll never reclaim the colonies, motherfuckers, but anyway, that was Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex. Onto more important matters. Again, despite its gameplay deficiencies, atmosphere is still pretty good, love the music. Gameplay, again, it's at its absolute worst, the gameplay is just sort of there might be a few too many vehicle sections for people's liking, but again, they don't last so long that it's, you know, really all that disagreeable, and even then it's usually just like a 1 or 2 level gimmick. Everything else, though, is, you know, at its best, it's reasonably fun. It's just got a lot less polish and refinement, which is easily explained away by the fact that this game should be mighty rushed through no fault of Traveller's Tale's own, simply because Universal Interactive Studios just fucked over Mock Sony in what would have otherwise been a really excellent game that probably would have had the Crash series, well, in much better, you know, straits than what it would have been, you know, back when, you know, as time proven back in the 2000s. But even in that case, though, despite the fact that Wrath of Cortex will probably never see a re-release or the light of day ever again, I don't know, it's an enjoyable game, I think, just probably doesn't quite reach the heights of the heavens that some people were hoping for, but I don't know, still a game worth checking out, I feel, even if a way to play it isn't quite as easily available anymore. But in any case, though, again, if Streets of Rage 3 isn't already in progress right now, then what you have to look forward to is Comic Zone, and then after that, Freelancer, which I'm really looking forward to, so yeah, on that note, I am Solidus-Skully, keep it new metal, and yeah, hope you enjoyed Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex. I'll let you enjoy this little dance number, and catch you dudes in 2 minutes later.